Ooh, welcome back to the Nethercast. I am Cyborg, and I am joined, as always, by Razor, Shad, Temp, and a wild Django. How's everybody doing?
It's all right.
I'm good.
Kill me.
Please.
Nah, I'm good. How you doing?
Enthusiasm.
How are you doing?
You know, it's the holiday season, Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah,
Festivus for the rest of us.
Festivus for the rest of us, the airing of grievances.
Mm.
A glorious day. A
Yes.
red day.
So off the bat, I want to address something. So our good buddy, old pal Django, who's been with us since near the beginning if you count just his contributions to the show, but as a co-host near the beginning. It wasn't long after it started where he's like, "Hey guys, I want to be a part of your show. I think you're awesome, and like I totally want to join in on you." In fact, let's see if I can pull up those private messages from MKO from back then. Just to
If you're wondering, what those other contributions are, Django is and has always been our music man.
Oh yeah, like his renditions, and I'm not just saying this because he's here. Obviously, we've been using him, so obviously that speaks highly of him. But he's the guy that does the badass remixes of the old MK music from the classic games. We've used pretty much most of his tracks, I'd have to imagine by now, of those for our various shows over the years.
You guys are being
Except for-
very kind.
Except for you bastards took the MK4 one, didn't you, for the Lost?
Well, yeah.
That's right, and we'll do it again. It's that good.
It is the best one. It is
That
my
one
favorite.
is good. Like, not, MK4 one. MK4 made it good, not me.
Hey, there were several shows started before The Lost. Krypton had its chance.
MK4 did make it good, not you, but your version is better. So that has to account for something.
You guys are
Like-
being too kind.
No, we're not.
Just
Credit
I'm
we're
being
due. Like,
honest.
I have had people ask about like the themes that you've done for the show and like where we can find them and whatnot. It comes up on the Discord. It's come up on YouTube. You do good work, man. Pat yourself on the back.
And you don't have to
deserved.
take our word for it either, because your work was so good that Rio stole it without asking. So shout outs to
Wow.
Rio.
He did. I forgot about that.
Fucking
Well, thank you.
Leo.
I
guys.
didn't. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that, Rio.
I've never met a Rio I liked. Not the person, not the movie.
I didn't
Yeah,
watch
fuck
that
you,
movie.
Rio.
Okay, I legit did forget about the movie. I did forget that was a thing.
Wasn't that the one with like Johnny Depp played the voice of like the lizard or something?
I thought it was called a
Oh,
bird.
That
No,
movie.
that's Rango.
Yeah, that's Ringo.
No,
Which is
no,
also-
What the fuck is
Rango,
Rio?
Django.
There is a similarity there. That's weird.
What is a Rio movie then? Oh yeah, I've never seen Rio.
Rio was about a bird.
Are we talking about the dude from King of Fighters?
I mean, to be fair, I've never seen the movie, and I've never actually. I don't even know who you're talking about when you say Rio. So
What
I
is
guess-
that?
I guess I'm from the creators of Ice Age.
Technically, Rio, the movie about the 3D animated bird, is called that because it takes place in Rio. None of the
Well,
characters
yeah.
are named Rio.
Well, yeah, I would.
Rio
I
de
pieced that
Janeiro,
together.
Brazil, which
Okay.
I haven't been, but I hear it's a pretty nice place.
Yeah, well,
She's also a pretty nice girl. That's why Duran Duran wrote a song about her.
Yes.
anyways, so the reason why we bring all this up is not just to praise Django just for funsies, because we do mean all that, but that aside, he had some medical problems. He ran into some serious issues. I don't know if you want to discuss it or not, but if you do,
Huh?
you can jump in to kind of tell your story if you'd like.
Well, I don't mind talking about anything. It's fine.
Sure. I mean, tell people what happened. Tell them, how
um,
you're doing and how things are going.
About a month ago, November 2nd or 3rd. I don't remember because I'm bad with numbers. I had a surprise stroke. Out of nowhere, which was really, really scary. It was really, really scary
bet.
because there was no priors. There's no reason for it.
Right.
Like, even after the fact, I've had 20 some odd doctors like come talk to me and be like, "So, do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this?" No, 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 no. No, no.
Hmm.
I haven't drank in years. I don't smoke anything. I don't do any drugs. I'm not like super overweight or anything. I don't, whatever. No, no, don't have any of this stuff. They're like, "Huh." I'm like, "Yeah. Huh. Huh." Which is
I would have to
which
imagine that makes it more scary
yes, it
because you
does.
don't have like a specific answer of something you
It
can
does.
address, right?
It does. I've had one doctor, and I still do, one neurologist talk to me, and she's convinced I'm on drugs. And I tell her, no, I'm not actually on drugs. Whenever I was rolled into the ER to see her the first thing she did was pick up my hand, which I cannot use. Um, I'm I don't have the functionality of my left leg or arm right now. She picks up my arm and she drops it on my face twice, just to make
Jesus.
sure I'm not
Right.
faking it. I'm assuming, but especially at that time, like I had an inner chuckle. I was awake, but I was also like, I just had a stroke. I'm still actually in the process of stroking, having a stroke at this point, and
Okay.
and
It's a way to put
and
it.
that's yeah.
It's
It's maybe not.
ongoing, like as of this moment. It's
Yes,
still
and
happening.
she picks up my arm twice and drops it straight on my face. And
Jesus.
it's like, no, I'm not faking, I swear. There's
So
Well,
a
when
she
you say
picks
in
you.
this moment, you mean that moment, not like right now while we're talking,
Right,
right?
right.
Like,
well,
You
I
haven't
mean, no,
continued to have a stroke for a month straight.
yeah.
God, I hope not.
I was like, Jesus,
Yeah, I
thank
was
you for
about-
asking, Temp.
Yeah, I
Well,
was
Thank
a
you.
the
little
reason why I
confused.
bring it up is because I fear things like this might be intermittent. It might go in and out, but it sounds like that's not the case, right? Like,
I did have a expansion of the stroke. Um, about 3 weeks into after I was initially admitted into the ER, and they
Mhm.
observed me, and they was like, okay, you seem mostly stable, I guess. They sent me to a rehab a rehab hospital where I stayed there for about a month. About 3 weeks into that, I had a expansion of my stroke, and I had to go back to the ER. Um, and what's scary about it is why they were very nervous, and I was nervous too. Was my stroke is in what's called the pons area of the brain, which is right above the brainstem.
Mhm.
And if if that had gone any longer, if that gets any closer to your brainstem, the brainstem is where things like heartbeat and breathing and automatic functions happen. And so if that gets taken out, then you're gone. As one of my other doctors said, it's lights out. So that was really scary. That's why I was rushed out again.
Right.
So luckily that didn't happen. I'm still alive. Um, but yeah, hopefully it's not going to do that anymore.
Right.
Hopefully.
did the
But yeah,
Yeah,
doctors at
that's
least give theories, or when they said, "Huh"? Like,
oh
did
my
they
god.
follow up?
You know what? The the best I say best with a giant like quote on either side. Um the best one was maybe it's a long well not that long effect due to the COVID vaccine that I took, because this
Mhm.
has been cropping up a little bit. There's been a little bit of a spike in younger people lately, apparently, of strokes out of nowhere.
Jesus.
Yeah, or maybe it's a effect of COVID itself that's a little bit more long term. So
Did you have COVID? I take it.
I did, yes, and I had one of the vaccines too, and so, but they're like, this is a theory, maybe,
Right.
maybe,
Well, we know there is a link between the mRNA vaccines and myocarditis. Like, that's in stone. Like, no one argues with that anymore. But with strokes, well, I mean, given the cardiovascular nature, I mean, strokes are usually associated with the brain, right? But like,
yes.
we don't know yet. We're still finding out. The data is still coming in, so we'll see. But yeah, keep us updated, because I mean, you lived a better life than I did. I have a long history with alcohol and some tobacco, and I had COVID, so yeah, this could happen to anyone. Anyone could have gone through this. So yeah, it's scary, man. Yeah.
That is the scary thing. Yeah, like 35 years old. I literally just kind of woke up one day and bam, it happened. And that was I was on the floor for hours. I
You
was
were
out.
conscious when it happened? Like
Oh yes, yes.
you
I was
weren't
very
asleep when it happened?
no, no, no. I was very awake. It was very strange. I just got very, very, very dizzy, and slowly my function of my left arm and left leg went away, and so I kind of slid down the bathroom door and stayed there on the floor for a while. And couldn't get off the floor.
Yeah. Yeah, geez,
Oh
that's
man.
fucking a reality
I'm
check and scary and definitely I
I'm
mean,
I'm having flashbacks here because this story is very, very familiar to me. Because you have now gone through the exact same thing that my mother went through in 2009.
Yes.
Like I came back at home one day to find her like unable to speak on her bed, and like she couldn't really tell me what was going on, so I called the hospital, and like I got an ambulance, and same thing, like down to the wire, except for her was the right side, not the left side.
Yes.
And a
Gosh,
month
that's so scary. I'm sorry. It's
No,
terrifying.
I mean, you understand more than anyone now. Like, she also spent a month in rehabilitation, like rehabilitation center, same as you. And I was, I was there for the entire thing, and I was there to see her get what rehabilitation she could. And if I could, like, this stuff scares me because it's hard. Like, you have to hit the rehab hard to get back what you've lost, and not everyone does. And my mom never got back full use of her right arm or her right leg.
Oh yeah, and yeah, it's terrifying. I was in the gym pretty much every day at 8 a.m. in rehab, trying to work on taking steps and moving my arm. I can sort of take some steps, but they're not really not pretty steps. But I have to have a walker, and I usually get around in a wheelchair. My left
It's
arm is just it's been one of the worst parts of it. How much
right.
of your
Did
identity
you
is linked into what you do with your hands. It's so strange. Whenever I get home, you have everything in your life in your house that you do. Video games. I played music like we were just talking about, like guitar and stuff like that. And all of a sudden you get home and you can't do those things anymore. And
Right.
I may not never be able to play guitar again. That's just I might get back some function, but that kind of dexterity in your fingers and whatnot, yeah, I'm not gonna hold my breath over it.
strive
Um,
for it? That's all I can say.
oh, I'm trying. I'm trying my ass up. I really am, and I hope I'm not being pessimistic. I'm just, that may not ever be a thing for me
You're
anymore.
being realistic and I mean
I'm being
that's
realistic.
just as important as being, optimistic, kind of
Yeah,
Wait, well, you know
try
what,
your
man?
best, obviously.
You sound good, like voice wise. You didn't lose any speech or anything, like your
I
ability to talk.
the first week I had a little bit of the face droop. I don't have that anymore, fortunately. Um, and I couldn't talk very well at all. I didn't have any of the um, jumbled words or thoughts or having trouble getting things out, which is I'm really fortunate to
Yeah,
be in that case.
very.
Very fortunate. I in rehab there were some people that I feel so bad for that also had strokes that were just in such even worse condition than I was in. So I have a lot to be grateful for. I really do. But no, that the first week I couldn't say anything without slurring a bunch, and I would just rather not talk that week. So
Right.
I would write things down on my phone to try to communicate it with people. Um, and that first week was really hard. The first thing I said to my wife whenever it happened was, "There's nothing wrong with my brain. My thoughts were fine. I just couldn't get them out. I couldn't talk right. I couldn't do anything." But I spent a long time in rehab in speech therapy, so I'm still working. You can probably hear it. I'm still slurring. I'm
Just a
still
No,
little
not
bit. Just a
just a
very
little bit.
tiny amount.
subtly noticeable, but not very.
What's the most noticeable is that also with the speeches, I also don't have my left side, like, of my core, really. It's I mean, I have it. It's there. But as far as feeling and goes, my abs, my pecs, and my lungs and diaphragm too, they're not they're not back yet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I sound out of breath all the time. I can't I can't breathe quite the same as I used to be able to. So I get winded a lot easier now. Um, that's one of the biggest things with it, and I know I sound out of breath all the time. I sound out of breath now. Um, and it's just because the old amount of air I take in isn't the amount of air that I need now to talk. So it's learning how to how to talk again and how to do everything again. And that's been the biggest struggle of everything is that part of my brain that it happened in is responsible for coordination. Coordination has been coming back slowly, but first my balance was just gone. So I had to be like strapped in a chair to take showers. Um and all of that stuff. I had to have help for everything. Everything. I still need help for a lot of things. But all of my coordination and balance and everything was just out the door. And it's amazing how much stuff that affects. One of the things that affects I've never been that affects your voice a lot too. I I've never I've never claimed to be any kind of singer. I've done some singing on some of the tracks and songs that's out there, but I've done some singing in time. But I can't sing anymore at all. Like I don't have that coordination in my voice anymore. I've tried. It's not there. So the thing that I like to or the thing that I think about it most is or relate it to the most is like a video game. All of my skills and stats have been reset to 0.
Hmm.
Like, you just started a new game.
Right.
So you're back at the beginning. So you have to rebuild the skills. I have to rebuild the skills in my arm. I have to rebuild the skills in my voice and my lungs. I have to rebuild the skills in my hands big time to play. I can't even play video games. Well, I mean, I can't play video games like I did. I don't have any use of my left hand, so I don't have that. Of course, I don't have it in my hand for guitar, so that skill has been, you see what I'm saying. Um, and I'm not being pessimistic about those things. I'm working on them, and I'll get back as much as I can.
Right.
But it's just it's an interesting thing. But I'm very lucky. It could have been so much worse for me, so
Yeah.
much worse.
I'm staying optimistic just because all the research I did seems to indicate that this whole process has been streamlined over the last decade. It sounds like within 6 months, a lot of people do get back to normal. I don't know how many. I'm still looking into that, but the research seemed optimistic at least. But like I said, I'm still looking. I'm still trying to get like drive numbers out of that.
I am well. I mean, I am too. Trust me. I mean, and I've I have come a long way. At first, like I said, I couldn't sit up in a chair to take a shower. Um, Now I can take a few steps. They're not ugly. I can get around with a shitty walker. And they're shitty steps, but I can stand up. I can stand without assistance, without a walker. I can just stand there and not fall over. Um, which is which is a lot. Is a lot. I'm getting function in my leg back pretty good. And it's been like I said, this happened November 2nd or 3rd. It's only been a month or so. Like right over a month, I think. Yeah, ish. So that's actually pretty good. I'm pretty lucky. Um, so if I keep working, then who knows what'll happen? But I still need a lot of assistance, a lot of assistance. Fuck, opening a bag of chips, man.
Hmm.
Whew, chips are hard. Um,
Fuck
I've had to
chips.
have a fuck chips, man. Zippers are nuts. They really are, dude. Trying to like do everything with one hand is crazy. It's ridiculous. Um, so I'm so lucky I've had my wife helping me out, and she's been assisting me so much for this past month. But she's had to miss a lot of work to do so, and that's something that Cyborg when he uh suggested the idea of the GoFundMe, that's something that I thought about, and any amount of help that comes in from that. I feel guilty for even asking, to be honest, because
Nah.
I feel guilty for that kind of stuff anyway. Like it doesn't matter. I feel you heard me. I feel guilty for hearing you guys talk about my music. Like I don't know. I'm not very good at receiving things, I guess.
No, I get it, man. But look, I'm hoping by you telling your story that people really understand just how much this entails. Because, like you said, this can happen to anybody. You had no signs going into this. You didn't do anything wrong. It's not like you've lived your life recklessly or, like you did anything to ask for this or to increase the chances. It just happens. And this can happen to
Just
anybody.
yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's you or me or anybody else on here or anybody in our community. If this happens to somebody, I'd like to think that we as a community can come together and help that person out because, be it the medical expenses or time off work or, like you said, time that your wife's missing. Like these things people don't think about. We all have our lives. We all have our, the things that we do in our own bubble that we're not really cognizant of because we probably haven't been through it ourselves. So you don't really know what all this entails. So that was the big reason for this is just hoping that if anybody has anything, if you're listening to this and you have a few spare dollars, just throw it Django's way. If you've listened to our podcast or many of our various other shows or whatever the case, and you've gotten entertainment from any one of us along these 8 years that we've been doing this, then I'd like to think that, hey, try and help Django out because, if you were going through something that dire, we would be there to help you too if you reached out. So that's my mentality on it is like, I don't want anybody breaking the bank and making their own lives, more difficult to help you
No,
out. But
no.
at the same, and I know you don't, I know you're not asking for that either, but from a, like, because it's just if you're not in a bad situation and you're not strapped for cash yourself, even $5 or $10 thrown Django's way could probably help him out. And it's not like he's gonna turn around and buy himself a new fucking gaming console out of this or something. Like this is just trying to help his out of all the things he's dealing with right now, financial problems shouldn't be one of them. You know what I mean? Like it's as simple as that. It's just trying to ease the burden where we can as a community. We can't help you, with your battle that you're doing right now. That's all on you and your wife helping you through and the awesome doctors that are helping you out. And that's amazing. And we want you to try as hard as possible to get back to 100% as much as you can. So like financially that shouldn't be one of those struggles in my opinion. So like that's just where I'm coming from on it.
And I think people want to help as well. I think, our viewership is very stable. Our numbers have been very stable. Like, especially in the last few episodes, it's very clear. People really like what we do. And I think people will want to contribute if they can.
It really enrages me that you even have to pay for this as a Canadian.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like, I mean,
you would be
if I
amazed.
could, if I fucking could, I would like wrap up my sweet free Canadian healthcare and bundle it and give it to you somehow. But no, you have to live in the land of waste
know.
and Las
I know.
Vegas where people pay to be healthy and pay to have themselves fixed up. I don't understand your fucking country.
It's so gross. It
That's
really
a whole
is.
nother
Most
can of
of
worms
us-
we gotta get
It is.
into.
Most of us
Okay,
don't
just-
understand why this country is the way that it is either.
I
So
know.
I've
Thank
had to
you.
deal with a lot of shit about that kind of stuff recently too.
I
Like,
could
ah,
that's a
it's-
whole nother political can of worms we could go down, but we don't got time for that. But
Is it
there's a reason
another
why our
subject,
country is the
but
way
it's
because everyone's fucking
it's
Do you
one
demoralizing.
big bullshit thing.
I'm gonna ask you later on, but like I might actually have a couple of spare medical supplies left over from my mom's days that may or may not help you. So I'll hit you up afterwards.
Oh,
But anyways,
thank
to kind of put a bow on this, as we transition to some MK12 talk, is just like I want to reiterate, like if you're listening to this and you retweeted it, and you shared it, I thank you very much for sharing it. But if you're listening to this and you do have the capability of helping Django out, we would greatly appreciate it. Yeah, it's like I said, just financially, we've all been at moments of struggle. So I don't want anybody to make their own lives any more difficult. But if you have the extra, even if it's just a few dollars, please think about contributing because, yeah, out of everything he's dealing with, financial problems should not be one of them.
And anything I am so grateful for. Me and my wife, our family, so much. I can't even say how much anything is appreciated. If you can, you absolutely don't have to, and that's totally okay too.
Yep.
But I just want to make sure I'm very appreciative of anything at all.
And that link will be in the description. So if you're wondering where it's at, it'll be in the description of this video. I've also shared it on Twitter and our Facebook, so you can find it on all of those places. And just on a side, for some reason, and you can always come check out our Discord. We got a community on that. If for some reason after all these years you haven't realized that, I don't know who wouldn't have, but you never know. And we're all on Twitter, I believe, as well. So please come reach out to us. And I think that's all in all of our Twitter handles should be in our description. I think I made that the default like a little bit ago. So go find us there.
Razor, is there anything that we on the Lost can do to add incentive for people to donate? Like,
I mean,
I know that like people come to us for that specific brand of lore and sanity. If there's something that people shouldn't need incentive to contribute, obviously, but if there's something that would drive maybe people to that I can contribute or that we can work on together. If people have any ideas of something that they'd like to see, by
Here's
all
the
means,
thing.
throw them our way.
So on that note, when you go to GoFundMe, and one little note, so if you donate on GoFundMe, it's gonna ask for like a GoFundMe tip. You don't have to tip GoFundMe anything. They're always asking for their own portion or whatever, like on the side. So you can make that 0, so it all goes to Django. But I know you can leave like a comment, I think, on your donation. So if there's something you want to see from any of us, just put it as part of your donation and we will be happy to oblige to our best of our abilities as long as it's something we can actually do. I'm sure we'll do our best to make it happen for you.
I will dress as any Mortal Kombat character you want. Any character.
But on that note, so thanks everybody for listening, and we're gonna transition to some MK12 talk because I think we're all in agreement that's probably the next game we're getting.
Ed has, I would say, not been super subtle with the hints, which is rare for him.
So I got a question. I talked to Brusque a little bit earlier today over Twitter DMs just because I obviously have been out of the loop for the majority of like the last 4 years since MK11 came out, dealing with my own mental problems. And shout out to Ishi wherever you are. Hopefully you're somewhere, not laying in a gutter somewhere. But I heard you were going through some. Look, I heard he was going through some problems, so hopefully he's doing okay out there somewhere.
I agree.
We haven't heard from you in a long. Yeah, we haven't heard from you in a long time. So hopefully you've turned things around and figured out whatever you needed in life. I don't know. It just came to my brain. All right, this is off the cuff here.
No, I agree. I hope Sai's doing well.
It has been a while since we've heard from him, but I'm sure he's still out there. But he's a young guy, and he was always trying to like get a clean break from old screen names and separate himself from like embarrassing things he said on the internet when he was still a teenager. So
who gives a fuck? Like,
I mean, I understand.
We've all said stupid shit, so hopefully,
There's not a single one of us that has not said or done shit in our past that we don't look back upon and wince.
Right. He's probably not listening. I'm just saying, if you are, for whatever reason, hey, I mean, hopefully things are going well for you. But that aside, point of why I brought up Brusque and me mentioned is I was asking him like what the scuttlebutt is. I mean, you guys have been around this entire time, taking in all these leaks and spoilers and rumors and whatever. I don't know how many of it's actually accurate or what all we've even gotten. I have a question. So So do we think MK12 is going to be like a trilogy affair where it's like MK9, MKX, MK11, everybody comes back type of thing? 'Cause I remember that rumor being around, right? Like,
Those were
I
flying around back and forth. People were saying that like they were gonna take the assets of people from like X and maybe even 9 and update them as much as possible and kind of slam them into the MK11 engine, and like
That
that would be like 12 unofficially, the third Armageddon iteration
that
trilogy
I,
seems
thing.
so
I
strange because
feel like
those are all very different. Like back in the 3D era, those games they were all very clearly like of the same family. As
right.
far
yeah
as
the
engine goes, graphics goes, going from MKX to MK11 is like two. I mean, it is two different games, but it's really two completely different games. Like a whole
It
new
is.
animation engine, everything else. You look at Fujin, and you look at I don't know. You look at Cassie Cage and MKX. Ooh, man, what the hell's going on? Like they're just different. Like putting those two together, that would be crazy.
yeah, like
Obviously, Cassie
when they
Cage as well.
suddenly switched
MP11.
to the like the face models with Injustice 2 and MK11, I don't think that you can go back to 9 and X and just slap an actor's face on those models and it'll work because
No, like they would
uh
have to reskin them completely from the
well
ground up,
here's the thing.
obviously.
I got an example of them trying to do just that. Shinnok in that mobile game Onslaught is
Yeah,
basically that, and his head looks weird, like it's the wrong size for his body and he has no neck.
What the hell?
that sounds about right. Yeah.
So I guess my follow up to that is whether we think that's actually the case of like a trilogy all in roster of the last three games. A follow up would be, you remember that rumor of like a jilted ex girlfriend or something leaking because she was dating one of the NRS guys and she was
Oh,
pissed off.
there's
So
always some weird story like my dad works for Nintendo. That's how I have this information.
Oh,
well, I
that
mean, I
shit
think
goes
that's
back
where the
to
whole all in like I'm pretty sure is that leak I put in quotation marks that kind of started the whole like, oh, it's going to be all characters from MK9, X, and 11, and that MK12 would be the next game, and that they were going to reveal it at the Game Awards. But this was like the Game Awards last year or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it's I think it's been too long for us to assume that 12 will have a lot of reused assets. Like to make us wait this long for the next game, there must be a lot of new content in that game.
Right.
I would
Okay.
buy the all-in approach more for Injustice 1 and 2 combined than I would for
Yeah,
Mortal Kombat right now.
I could see that more. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially because they have legacy gameplay and stuff. They don't try
Yeah,
and reinvent the wheel each time like they do with MK. Um, okay, so that's one thing I was just kind of curious about, just because, like I said, I didn't see resolution to all these things, so I'm kind of wondering what happened to that one. Then my next one is like, so Ed obviously has been tweeting a lot of like hints towards MK12, and then he's said things like, 3D era characters are going to be used more, or they're looking to rectify the idea that they don't like the 3D era characters or whatever the fuck he was trying to get on about. But I guess like out of all of his out of all of his leaks, like, or not his leaks, but his hints or his Q&As, like what do you think we're actually getting? Like what feels like a safe bet at this point?
If they were
I
doing an Armageddon, like enough time has passed for something like that to be possible. But I'm not committed to the idea that's the case, but I do think they are going for a bigger roster. And I think the reason being is because nothing sells better than a guest character. So it would make more sense just to put Melina and Bo Raicho on the base roster and then sell, I don't know, the T1000. That just makes more sense financially. I think that's what they're going for.
I mean, he has lately talked about like how awesome it would be if every single DLC character that they ever did came back together, you know? Like that's gonna get like the Freddy and Jason nuts like really revved up.
Oh, I'm
I
hard
mean
as a
those
rock, baby. No, I'm
every
just kidding.
single time every single time you go for these guest characters, these outside licenses, you have to like the contracts and the
Yeah.
rights. And the Jason Voorhees rights are a mess right now, and look how hard they tried and still couldn't get Ash.
and
It took
apparently
so
got
long to
told no on
respond.
Michael Myers, which to me is really strange that they would get told no on Michael Myers when Call of Duty had Michael Myers years ago. Dead by Daylight has Michael Myers. Like that can't be that hard to get if like Call of Duty, okay, Call of Duty and MK, those are both like really, AAA titles, but like Dead by Daylight, that's like a
Well, the other
independent
thing
game
is
basically.
sometimes the people who hold the rights for these things, I mean, there's also like human beings behind those decisions. And for example, the screenwriter Max Landis has this story he tells about, he was working on a crossover between all the slashers.
Right.
And to get all the rights was going to be super easy because they're all so cheap because most of them haven't had anything since the 80s and are like eager to be like, yes, make me popular again, please. But it was either Freddy or Jason, one of the rights holders for one of those two properties, just refused to meet with him because he thought Max was obnoxious as a person.
Hmm.
Which is, Max Landis is a super obnoxious person.
Yeah, he's very obnoxious.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe somebody involved just didn't want to be involved with Mortal Kombat or doesn't like Ed for some reason, or
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah,
like whoever the WB agent who was negotiating for Ed,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's like what they used to say about like Mortal Kombat and Killer Instinct. Enter as Ed and stuff. There's apparently some kind of like tiff or somewhat bad feels between them and Iron Galaxy. Um, so that's why those two never do anything, even though Iron Galaxy has like the best net code ever over there, and all these other things like that. That's there's just a little between the two, so you're probably not going to have any like thing that's would be super cool like Mortal Kombat versus Killer Instinct, even though that's like right there in the same town.
Yeah, I mean, there's like, Dan Forden just doesn't like Mick Gordon's music and didn't want him working on Mortal Kombat
Does
for
he
some
not? I
reason.
hadn't
It's like,
heard that.
So
Yeah.
strange.
Wow.
I think it's just Dan is insecure and doesn't want to be replaced.
Well,
Because
that's so weird
because
because they
Mick
outsource so
Gordon,
much music for those games.
yeah, that's the weird thing about Mortal Kombat is that so much of the work in the games is made by people whose names you haven't heard of, and the
Yeah.
credit goes to Steve Barron and Dan Forden and Sean Hemmerich because they're the heads of the departments.
That's so weird. Like all the music you hear in story mode that does not come from Dan Forden. Dan Forden.
No, like story mode had its entire own composer. There was an article for it, and
Yeah.
the story mode soundtrack actually got its own iTunes release, which I've listened to once and then never again. Didn't
Yeah,
think it was
Dan
particularly
has actually
good.
barely done anything since the start of the 3D era. Like, remember, you'd see the credits for the tracks in Deception, and half or more of them would be some guy named Rich Carl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
For MK11, Dan composed the Sea of Blood theme himself, and that was it. That was the only track he'd done by himself in a long time. And I've often wondered, did he just want to have, I don't know, a bit of a nostalgic time? Do one himself?
I think a lot of those guys are in a very cushy position,
Yeah.
and they don't want to lose it. They're not ready to retire, and they're too old to go looking for a new job if they got like replaced.
And clearly Dan
So
Forden is
they're
in it.
protective of their spot, I think.
Yeah. Like Dan Forden is in a position to where he can be like, oh, I just want to do the Sea of Blood, and that's it. And he can make that call. And then have other people come in and do the rest if he wants. He can pick his spots. That kind of position.
Meanwhile, us the fans, when we think of, if you ask a casual Mortal Kombat fan who does the music for the games, they're like, it's Dan Forden, right?
But no.
That's the thing. If
Yeah.
Mick Gordon showed up, they'd be like, Mick is a really good musician. We're gonna put him in charge from now on. Sorry, Dan. And then
Yeah. That sounds about
Okay.
right.
So, I guess the next thing is the thought of like it being a tag game or not. what are people's stance on that? Do you think it's actually going to be a tag game? I know Ed said something of the like they'd like to do it again, but maybe not for the next game or whatever. But I don't know. I think there was
I
some rumors going around that it might be a tag game.
Well, the
That sounds
interesting thing
like
about 11 is that it had tag mechanics, but not as a mode you could play a two-player.
Yeah, it was in the towers.
Yeah.
it sounds like wishful thinking to me. I
I
strongly
haven't
doubt
heard
it.
that rumor, but that sounds like fun to me.
I mean,
It's just yeah.
I would love a tag game. Tag was my favorite part of 9, and I've been, bitching for it to come back ever since. But my practice about any element of the games I enjoy is don't hope for them to come back, and that way when they don't come back, you're not disappointed.
See, I still like assumed it wasn't coming back, and I was still disappointed. So like, you can't
Yeah,
really
I
win.
mean,
yeah.
that's true. There is no winning, but you
But
can lose less.
yeah, maybe. I mean, well, perhaps I don't know.
You can mitigate your feelings about the loss.
Think about it this
Yeah.
way. Ed loves to model MK on other franchises and adopt big ideas. If Tag ever came back, I think that there's so much demand for it, and they know there's a demand for it, that they would want to give it like the Mortal Kombat Tag tournament treatment. It would be its devoted game. Are you getting that plus an Armageddon scenario? I don't think so.
Well, let me say this. I
When that
really, really, really do not expect an Armageddon-ish roster or like an attempt to bring everybody back in 12.
I would
I
say if
think we're
it's
gonna
gonna be
be
a bigger roster, you would want it to be tag, right? That would be the time to do it.
I
yeah.
just don't see them like even if it has been a couple of years, I don't see them dedicating like the man hours, the insane crunch that would take to both of those things, assuming either or both are true. I
Well,
don't think so.
if I'm betting money, I agree. If my wallet is on the line, I do not think we're going to tag MK12. But there is evidence it could be the case because right now, what's making the most money right now? It's the free to play, the Fortnite, the mass multiplayer stuff. So if you have tag a la MK9, you can have 4-player modes. You can have
Yes.
6-player modes. You can actually
Yes.
integrate
Keep
a real
going.
multiplayer.
Keep
No,
going,
no,
Teb.
yeah.
Keep going.
In
Please.
San Antonio, we
I'm
had
almost there.
3 setups and 12 people in a
Yes.
very small room. The reason why San Antonio got so good at Mortal Kombat is because after like the first 2 tournaments, Matt's like, all right, everyone's coming to my house. We all went to Matt's house. I knock on the door. Matt's dad answers,
Love
nice
Matt's
gentleman.
dad. Yep.
Yeah, good guy. And we go in the room. There's like 15 dudes in there. Master Betty's in the corner drinking a beer.
God.
And we had to play 4-player because there just wasn't enough setups for everyone to play individual matches. And it was fun as well. It was a blast. I would love to do that again. Yeah. So
You fucking dirty dog, you. Well, that's not what I'm. You're speaking my language because if there's been, I mean, we've all wanted tag, but if there's been anybody that's fucking preached about the idea of co-op in the game of some sort, like the team modes, like when it was in MKX where you could all do the round robin teams, and even though you weren't all playing at the same time, so to speak, you weren't in the same matches, but you had some team mentality. You had a way to play with your friends and get a bunch of people together and do something. Just like MK9 had the tag offerings. You didn't really have that. It even, well, I guess Injustice 2 had like where you all faced a boss and you could tag in and out against one boss, which is kind of like eh. But I mean, it was something. It was all right. They just didn't really take it any further or do anything to expand upon that. But that's one thing I've been saying for all these years is if you want to like guarantee that I keep playing the game and you withhold my interest, is make it multiplayer in the sense that it's not always one-on-one ultra competitive sweat my ass off and like have to try my hardest. Like you need to have some fun bullshit to play with your friends when you want to take it easy and be casual and just crack open some drinks or whatever the hell you're into and just fucking like laugh and have fun or just do cool shit with more than just you and one person. Like these are communities out there that enjoy this kind of shit. So like if there's anything that would really seal my interest, it would be a 2-on-2 where 2 of us could team up against 2 other people and 3-on-3 or whatever the bullshit. And quite honestly, like you mentioned, like I don't know if they would ever have the manpower to do that, plus the big roster and stuff. It's like, I mean, they've spent how long on this game? It's been 4 years. They've doubled the production site, and I'm not saying
And
it's possible they haven't spent that entire time on MK. Maybe they had to start on Injustice and then pivot to MK because of Warner Brothers rights or whatever. Maybe it got slowed down because of COVID and all that. Like,
I was
I'm
gonna
sure,
say some of those years are COVID years. That
yeah,
counts
yeah,
for
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot.
So not to discredit
yeah.
those, but like,
Well, they were also on fire because of the whole controversy with overworking and the time
Yeah,
crunches
yeah.
and
I
whatnot.
think there's been some slowdown to fight the like crunch
crunch.
stigma.
Okay. Well,
But I'm
okay.
with Cyborg here. I think it's more plausible than people think. But go on.
Well, I mean, even Boone, I thought said specifically like there are things that are more challenging about this game. He didn't say it exactly like that. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but there's like certain challenging aspects to this game, and that like if I remember right, there was something like you wouldn't know until you see the game like why it's taken this long. And I feel like for him to say something like that, you're not going to say, well, once you see the game, you'll see that COVID caused it to take. So that just means it's a shitty game or something, like, right? Like, if it's gonna take until seeing the game to truly understand why it took as long as it has, and so on and so forth, that to me says, okay, it's a large roster. Like, it's gonna be way more than what we've gotten normally, or it's gonna be something that they haven't done. So therefore, it was quite challenging. Like originally, people were thinking like, "Oh, that must mean like they got the Marvel rights and they're going to do Marvel versus DC or Marvel, this or that, and it's a whole new franchise. Thus, why it's been more of a challenge for them to develop, thus taking longer, etc." But if it's truly just MK12, and they like, I don't know.
Well,
You see
there's
where I'm
2
going
points
with
to.
this, though.
I'll take it even further then, because like what every Mortal Kombat game in the NRS era has been a response to the previous NRS game, right?
Right.
And I think Ed Boon has seen a very clear pattern of what is the same problem that arrives with MK9, with MKX, with MK or MK11, right? And it's constant showers of roster requests. He's like, all right, maybe we can finally solve this problem. Now, solving that problem may come at a cost, right? I don't think we'll get 2-button characters where you use like, the C stick on the GameCube controller to do punches and shit. I don't think that'll happen, no, right? But there's another issue too. It's just like Ed Boon makes video games. I'm not in the camp that thinks Ed Boon is completely cynical on the lore, but I think that's compartmentalized. He wants to make a fun game, And if you make a multiplayer Mortal Kombat game, what's the problem with fighting games? They're super fucking hard. Well, now the thing is, if it's a team game, everyone's little brother immediately becomes better at Mortal Kombat. And that's where I think Ed Boon might be going for. I know. Will he do this? I don't know anything, dude. I thought they were going to announce Killer Instinct 4 last week. I don't fucking know anything, all right?
God damn it.
But nonetheless, I think there is evidence. Now, logical does not always mean right. Logical is sometimes wrong, but I think there's evidence. What's up?
No, I'm just echoing. Logical? No, don't follow that. At least as far as like your hopes and expectations goes. No.
So
But
here's a thing I think we should consider is that like 9X and 11 were all made on Mike Boone's heavily modified version of an outdated Unreal Engine.
And God bless Mike Boone.
Yeah, no, he put the work in. I appreciate
Best
it.
guest character, to be honest.
But
I'll
12
allow it.
12 is probably going to be on a new version of Unreal, which means they've had to like start over from scratch modifying an engine to suit their fighting game needs.
didn't they do
That
that
probably
with
has a lot to do with it. So when I think of like, when I hear Ed say you're going to see why it's taken us so long when we do finally reveal it, I'm sort of expecting we're going to be looking at like a leap in graphical quality more so than a giant roster. That's sort of what I expect.
God,
Agreed.
MK11 looked
11
pretty
still
good though,
in-
right?
Yeah, 11 looked like a whole new engine to me.
I mean,
That game was-
11 looked great, but it is still Mike's Unreal.
Is it really?
I believe so.
That's crazy.
It's also worth noting that. Well, go on, yeah.
No, I'm just saying, like, looking at MK, if you must, looking at MKX, and then looking at MK11,
Night
like,
and day.
And
Quite
it's
literally
like,
night and day, because
it's
fucking
quite
MKX was
literally.
night.
Yes, dark.
Can't see
Quite.
shit.
Yes.
I mean, it is a huge leap graphically from X to 11, but it's not a huge leap from Injustice 2 to 11. You know?
Sure.
I think
That
people
sounds
might have a different interpretation of COVID than me. People think, there was a COVID year, work at home, the game got delayed. I think there's a different angle to that where, COVID happened, everyone worked at home, and what they did is they took a lot of production away from in-house. That's also another possibility. So right now, some dude in Cambodia might be designing Chameleon. We don't know, right? But that's a possibility, and those contracts are laid down, and that channel is open. That could actually speed the game up, right? Especially when a lot of people need the work right now. And also, the work at home infrastructure means they can hire anybody. You don't have to be in Chicago. You know,
Yeah.
literally the whole, and that's the problem with my industry is when I apply for a job now, I'm literally competing with like England. So that's the thing, right? So we'll see. I don't know. Again, all theories. I don't know anything, but I here's what I will.
Why do you
I've been
keep
seeing a lot
saying
of
you
shit,
don't know
yeah.
anything? Do you know something? Because you're saying you're trying to make us believe something here.
Well, if I knew something, I would definitely tell you because my loyalties to NetherRealm, But
You
I've been
signed
trying
some
to.
NDAs we don't know about there, buddy?
I mean, I don't have a picture of Bald Frost from MK12, no, right?
Look,
But what's
I
up?
can't speak for Temp, but if I had signed an NDA, I would violate that for this show in a heartbeat. You can't sue somebody who has no money to take.
That's what I
So-
did back at the MKHD days. You know I would.
Oh, Warner Brothers. But
Mm.
I've been saying a lot of things I would not put my wallet on. Here's one thing I will say that I would put my wallet on. I do think the roster is going to be much more substantial. Doesn't mean Armageddon, but I'm expecting over 30 characters at least.
Do you think there's any chance that
I mean,
they might
that's-
like pare down? That sounds bad to say, but maybe like rethink the gameplay a little bit and do something like Power Rangers Battle for the Grid as far as gameplay goes, and like simplify it to expand the roster and to make that a little more feasible.
God, I hope they do simplify, but
I would love that,
that,
honestly.
I think can we all just agree that variations, at least like the custom moves aspect of it, needs to go? Can we be
For
be done with
MK11,
that?
of course,
I
yeah.
think one of the things Ed said on Twitter is that the next game probably would not have an equivalent to variations.
Good, because I've
That's
wanted them to go into
correct.
the trash
Good.
for a long time
Yes,
now. I've
that's
never
just-
liked them.
Yeah, I mean, it was an interesting thought for a minute, but then like I think MKX was like, did we like that? And then Temp convinced us that it could be good, and then
I mean,
MK11.
Well, I tried.
There were some interesting things you could do with it, but my feeling from the beginning has always been if you make 3 movesets for one character, that could have been time spent making 3 characters. You're just shrinking the roster.
Right, and I don't like the fact that you've used that argument for why the cyborgs have not been in the game individually. So if that's their mentality is your mentality, then I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Get Triborg the fuck away. I'm sorry.
It was a
I've
promising. It was a
spent
really
years dealing with this.
promising idea, and just the execution was just so slapdash. Rather than let's take a core character, keep their basic moves intact, and like work around that to to give them different strengths and weaknesses, but still feel like the same character.
Yes.
It became an act of let's clusterfuck 3 characters into this one.
Yeah.
And like that's not even just Triborg. That's like giving Goro Kintaro's shit. That's like clustering Jade into MK10 where she wasn't. And it just felt so cheap.
I like how repeatedly what do we do for Katana variations? Just give her one of the other girls' moves.
Yeah. Okay. So we're all in agreement with like,
well,
have a straight
moveset?
moveset.
Like variations being locked as far as like you can only choose these 3. I don't think that worked very well. But the way MK11 ended up, where you could pick from that list of moves and make your own loadout for your version of the character.
Right.
What do you guys think about that? Obviously, I wanted a Knight's Clone, and there's no ice clone in that game.
How long did you spend on the dick stick?
A long time, let me tell you.
Yeah,
Even though it took a long time to get it. I don't want that random that you have to like work for your moves and it's
No.
random. Fuck that.
See, this is why you can't judge the man for still playing Injustice 2, because he worked for those dick sticks. He's going to
really
use
did.
them.
He's just trying
I
to equal
really
his
did.
time that he spent,
Yeah,
obtaining the
it's
damn
a
thing. I get
sunk cost fallacy.
it. He's paid for it, so now he's gotta fucking do
I
it.
did. There was something so cool in MK11. Back like I love playing Fujin. I still love Fujin to death. I wish I could play him right now. There was something so cool when you could play a Fujin. All of a sudden, like I would bust out Air Slam, and somebody else would be using one of the other moves, and it was like, whoa, use that move, or even like the unstable air pocket thing he used to pop you up. Like, but someone bust out that move. It's like, oh wow, he's using that shit, and it worked. Holy shit! Like,
So you're
there's
pro
something
custom
really cool
move.
about that. Yeah, what do you?
Just
Yeah.
not like hard to unlock. You want them to be like
No,
selectable
I
from the
want them
start.
free. I want them, yeah.
Right,
It's
right,
just
right.
totally selectable. And I don't want there to be, like I said, sectioned off variations where you can't do stuff and it's very rigid. So you can only play this version, or this version, and that's it.
Okay.
So I'm actually kind of the opposite of Django here, right? I actually prefer the MKX approach, but and I'm kind of like the biggest show for variations, but officially my stance is for this game, I actually don't want variations either. And the reason is because I in terms of like on a level of concept, I love them, but in MK11 they couldn't get jump-ins right. They couldn't get chip damage right. So there's really no reason to believe that until the fundamentals are fixed, they're ever going to get variations down, especially if they keep reinventing the wheels. So I would actually probably say no on variations. And I've never been a customs guy to begin with. So yeah,
I think
yeah.
there is something satisfying about having some options and some cool new moves for your character that you've never seen before being come up with. But
Sure.
the thing that was always frustrating to me is that to equip moves, you'd have to lose some of the iconic traditional stuff. Like, I want you to give me a Sonya first who has ring toss and leg grab and the up by kick. Then you can add new moves on top of that, okay?
I
Thank
agree.
Don't
you.
sacrifice any of the kit from Trilogy when you're adding new moves.
And I know that this is going to seem like a big ass, but like I liked the way that 11 tried to go about it. You know, to equip the things you want. That was wonderful. That was a good step in the right direction. The problem with it is that you very quickly found that a lot of moves just sort of fell into separate, distinct categories. Like 3 people had an acid puddle. 3 people had like that move where Kano just sucks you in like and vacuums. Like it just it started feeling like a big Excel sheet in a way. The moves didn't feel tailor made to the character.
Right.
True. It is true.
It did feel less like creativity and more like checking boxes, yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally get where you're coming from. It's almost like no matter who the character is, they're gonna have a version of a fireball, like a
That's
projectile
the
attack.
thing. When everybody has 12 moves, there's no way you're not gonna hit every possible kind of move you can make, and which results in the characters becoming generic.
So then, if we're all kind of in a similar box with slight variations of the desire of like some custom moves in there here and there and whatnot, or just none at all, but it sounds like we're all like dial back variations, go back to a simpler base move set, and then maybe some options there to deal with from there. Um, I like where we started with this conversation with the idea that by dialing back all those options, all the variations, all the little branches of take this character this direction, that direction, and then you have them doing all these things that they wouldn't normally do, or taking moves from other characters just to check boxes and to fill out, X number of variations just to hit a list. I like the idea of like if you're gonna have an expanded roster, if we're gonna hit 50 characters, maybe not base, but like when it's all said and done, if we're gonna get 40 characters base or whatever, 10 more than they did last time or whatever. Like, you need to scale back. And in general, I like, like Guilty Gear, right? Guilty Gear Strive. Like, characters, I mean, in most games, they don't have that many specials, right? You're talking about like 4 or 5 special moves, Temp, right?
For which game?
Well, just in general, like Street Fighter, Guilty Gear, like, you're not dealing with like 15
On the
different specials per character. Like,
It's like 4 or 5 on average if you're looking at Street Fighter.
Right,
Tekken
right.
doesn't really count. Like Temp's right, it's 4 to 5, maybe 6, or like there's usually like something that qualifies as kind of like a halfway normal, halfway special that you can muck around with.
Right. So then my point with that is, like, you don't need to have so much per character. You can make that character special just by oozing personality with every little punch they throw. Every kick they throw should say, that's that character throwing that kick. So if you want to make these characters seem interesting, from from first glance, they should be oozing that character from the select screen to their animations, to their idle animations, to taunts, to the way they fight, to every little, the 4, 5, 6, 7 special moves that they actually have. Like, everything should scream, this is how this character is, and only this character, and that's what's unique about them, and their speed, everything, every little aspect that you can do about that character. You don't need to boast having 3 versions of a character to sell your game or to be interesting. Like, all the previous games before X, go back to MK9 and how much people enjoyed playing that. You didn't have variations, you didn't have custom moves, you didn't have 12 specials per character possible. Like, the characters were fun because you made them fun, and then just dial it up to 11 in terms of personality for every character to make them feel unique and special. And then the time you save on that, and the complexity and the balancing that you save on that, you can add a lot more characters through that. So I think that's where we're all coming from. That's what we
You know what
prefer.
else? You know what else? Like we were saying, it's 3 to 5 special moves max. And in the history of Street Fighter, Temp can speak to this. How many times have they felt it was necessary to give like your legacy characters brand new special moves that like totally reinvent the wheel and how they play? Not that often. After all this time, EX and like ES shit aside, Guile is still basically Sonic Boom and Flash Kick your way home. That's how you play them. It's always worked. Most of the characters come fully formed out of the gate as far as trilogy is concerned. Barring like clones like Smoke got better later on. In so many years of Street Fighter, what did they give Ryu? A mule kick. They didn't need to, but they did. Handy little tool, but it's,
And then they took it away and only
yeah,
give it back to him.
like you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like, if you gave everyone just their trilogy movesets, except for Smoke, give Smoke the 9 stuff, I'd be nothing short of pleased. You don't really need much more than that.
It's actually, not only is that true, but it's so true that it actually led to problems. Like, they didn't bother changing Ibuki too much for Street Fighter 4. And like, Ibuki was the meta. You get knocked down, she jumps in the air and throws a dagger, and then you guess. And then Akuma's like, oh, I can do that too. And then Akuma jumps in the air, throws a fireball, and then you have to guess, right? And it turned to Vortex Fighter 4. In Street Fighter 5, there actually was a little bit more wheel reinventing. And it always turned out bad. Cody is damaged goods. Rose is damaged goods in Street Fighter 5. But for the most part, you're correct. They just give it the donkey kick, and they take it away the donkey kick, right?
Well,
in Street Fighter, yeah.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Well, I was going to say gear. Get rid of gear. That's going to save a lot of time.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people are going to
yeah.
get to go home early by getting rid of gear. So that's one thing I immediately do.
Again, really wonderful, wonderful idea with tons of potential.
Yeah.
Implemented in the most painful
And we
way.
knew that from Injustice 2. They learned very little going from Injustice 2 to MK11. It was such a grind.
Like,
the reason why... Go ahead.
I've said before that I would love to see like a wardrobe mode like a Tekken has.
Sure.
But
absolutely.
what we've learned is that as cool as it would be to craft your own skin from options, the way NRS does it consistently, the juice is not worth the squeeze.
Absolutely.
That it ends up being spending a lot of time developing these assets that are inferior to just having skins.
Absolutely.
Just give me like 3 skins for my character, maybe 4 if they have a bunch of retros, and call it a day. And then the developers don't have to work so hard making a single character, and they
Right.
can spend more time on more characters.
Yes.
I
and
sat there like an idiot and thought I'd be able to sculpt every single Sub-Zero costume that had ever been. So
Yeah,
stupid.
that's the thing. When they first talked about gear before 11 came out, I was like, "Ooh, maybe we'll be able to make all the past outfits." And in the end, you can make 2
Well, a
past
lot of it,
outfits
yeah,
for
it just
everybody.
feels superficial. Like it feels like they're missing the real opportunity there in favor of just having options, but they don't know what to do with those options that the fans are actually really going to appreciate because it's
Yeah,
just fluff.
they have these concept artists that they've outsourced to who are coming up with the designs from their own imagination. When they could have, there have been 11 games.
Right.
Give me 10 retro skins and call it a day.
And
Not
then
to be very cynical about it, but of course they would make you pay for as many retros as possible. And my god, I was so sad the day I sat down and I made Sonya's Mortal Kombat 4 outfit by giving her a cap and a red top. And I'm like, I accomplished something with what they gave me.
Yeah.
It felt
well,
far too good.
let
I
me
got
let me add a
marginally
couple.
close to a thing I remember. Yay.
I'm gonna add a couple factors to this. Is one, I didn't buy MK11 on PC because I mean I don't ever really break out the consoles anymore. I'm pretty much a primary like just use Steam to buy all my shit. And God, I hope MK12 is completely cross-platform from like the get-go, so
It
that
will
way I
be
can
100%.
yeah, I would expect it to at this point. I mean, but yeah, so that way I can just buy it on Steam and play it with anybody. I'm not gonna buy multiple console versions. I don't plan to buy any
Yeah.
console version because I don't have the new consoles. I don't have a fucking Xbox One X or whatever. I don't even
I
remember what
don't
the hell it's
either.
called at this point.
That's something I've been worried about too, because I have also not gotten either a PS5 or an Xbox, a fucking Sexbox, whatever
Yeah,
they want me
whatever
to
it
call
is.
it.
X part Bex.
Well, the point is, the reason why I've
Bonks,
never bought
bonks.
it on Steam, because I've wanted to play MK11 again at certain times here or there, but it's like I don't want to get the console out. Like I'll just buy it on Steam when it's on sale for like $10 or whatever. Okay, sure. That's totally worth my time to do that. But what I don't want to do is grind through all that shit again. Like
Yeah.
I have no desire to grind for anything. I don't want to grind towers. I don't want to grind to get all those outfits I had for Frost again. I just want to pick it up and play the fucking game. Like I want to be able to play Frost that I want to play with the outfit that I think is the coolest. Like if I have to do something like short to unlock it, like beat the tower with her, like cool, great, grand. You know, that's simple, that's how it's always been, like that kind of
Yes.
stuff. Like or unlock it in
I
the crypt or
wonder.
whatever, like super easy. I don't need something that's gonna take 70 hours to get the Frost that I want when all I want to do is buy the game and play it with a friend and have fun with it in the way that I want to play it. And my second point to this is by making characters simpler and going back to like 4 or 5 specials per character, no variations, no custom moves, no grinding for gear and what gear does and to use gear to not, to use this, to use not, like and having different ranked play versus the casual experience and all this extra bullshit that they add on these different layers that are very superficial and don't actually enhance the experience. They bog it down, if anything. Is the whole point why that is negative? Is because if the whole goal is to get more players interested from the casual to the hardcore, don't you think you can do that by making your game simpler to play, but still meaty for those that want to actually put in the time and enjoy it? Like, you don't turn on Street Fighter and all these other games that are, like only a few specials per character and they don't have the variations. Like the reason why people keep coming back to them is because they are fun at their core, and that should be the important part. Is the game should absolutely be addicting and fun, and every time you get done with a match, you should say, "Let's go again. Let's run it back because that was super fun." Like that should be what carries your game, not all this superficial garbage that they've been adding to MKX and to MK11 that they got away from in MK9. Like, just make it a fun experience at its core, and people will play your game. And then if you want ways to, carry on the experience to keep people playing and coming back, just make DLC. Like, just add more stuff through DLC. It's perfectly fine. Add events for the
You know,
follow the. There are certain trends that you can take away from like the Fortnites and the games that are like super like in Call of Duty that are making billions per year based on their microtransactions and
Well, I
shit.
was
Like
gonna say that's kind of what they did. They added the loot
yeah.
boxes, and I hate to say it, but it worked.
I feel like all that stuff comes from like marketing people studying like what drives engagement the most, and they're looking at like the numbers on their mobile games, and the
they
mechanics in a mobile game are often like, you can fight uh this many times per hour because there's an energy meter that
right.
refills or whatever, and like
all
earn
of
coins and all that.
all of this shit is handled via metrics. This is why they ask you for your data, for your email address, because they want to track your playing time.
Right.
Because in their books, the longer you play, the more you'll be inclined to actually maybe spend a bit of money. The longer you play, the better a game that they've made. That's why these things exist. This is why you have shrines and like randomly generating loot boxes and crypts that you have to refill and refill and refill, and an entire goddamn game mode which is based on the idea of getting health items and power up items to make impossible battles possible, forcing you to go through an endless loop from the crypt into the towers, into the crypt, into the towers, into the crypt, into the. And if your strategy is to do that, to artificially pad out your game to make people play longer, guess what? You're not making a good game.
And I
Well,
want to.
the thing I wonder when I think about this stuff is like, what's it gonna look like when you re-release a game in 20 years that had so many like server requirements? Like it has to be online because there's, all these things that update from these fucking numbers and whatever. Like how are you going to re-release that game? Like for 2 or 3 console generations from now?
The
Well, I think
guys
they
paying
just
the
said today
bills
they
aren't
can.
releasing archival.
Oh, what's up?
No, I just said the guys paying the bills for these games are not interested in archival, so that's not really part of their strategy.
You sound quiet, Jing. I don't know if your mic is
Oh
far.
no! Let me fix it. Sorry.
Gain up, buddy.
Yeah, that is the thing. Like, obviously, Warner Brothers doesn't give a fuck about archiving or re-releasing old games. We can see that from the fact that Ed wants to re-release old games, and WB keeps saying no, particularly
Well,
Shaolin Monks.
even
Yeah.
MK9, they said we can't. We want to re-release MK9, but we can't do it without a remaster or GGPO.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well,
I
what I
wonder
want to
how
say
those.
about your comment about like the loot boxes and stuff like that is I feel like they took the wrong message. Like they took the bad parts about other games. They didn't take like I know what their intention was. Their intention was to put in these ways to keep people playing and to make more money from them. That I totally get. That I can completely understand. That's their business objective, but you can have your business objective without getting in the way of the player. Like I'll use okay, Call of Duty Warzone, right? If anybody sees me on Discord, you probably see me playing that game all the fucking time. So I put like over 1,000 hours in Call of Duty Warzone, which was free to play, mind you. And I put over 1,000 hours into it, and I spent maybe 150 bucks over that 1,000 hours, and that was just personal. That was me choosing to do it, like buy a skin, just like Fortnite, right? I saw something cool, like I bought Billy the Puppet when they released the Halloween horror stuff. I bought my character to look like the puppet from Jigsaw. Like that is cool. Like that's something I'm interested in, right?
That is cool.
But at the point I'm making is at no point did I need to buy something to enjoy the game, to play the game. Like for instance, Warzone 2, which just came out a month ago now. It came out mid-November, I think November like 18th or 16th or whatever. So not even quite a month. I've already put in 130 hours and I have not spent a single cent on that game because there's no bullshit. There's no loot boxes. There's no like, yeah, they'll put stuff up in the store if you want like a cool skin for your gun or a cool skin for your character or whatever. Like that is completely optional. It gives you no gameplay advantage to go buy this cool looking operator or this gun skin or whatever. Like, that's how you do it. They didn't put things, oh, well, this is a free to play game, so your experience is going to become a grind. There is zero grind about it. You play the game, you upgrade shit, but at no point is it like, does it feel like, oh, I am encouraged and have to do this to enjoy this game? Like, I have a blast. I play that game almost every single day with friends, and it's totally free to play, and it's my choice whether I want to spend money on it. But the thing is, Mortal Kombat's not a free to play game. It's not a mobile game. It's a $60 game. So if you're paying a $60 to play it, you shouldn't have like this grind on top of it just to get the things you want. You've already given them your money. Like, yeah, if they're going to put out DLC, it should be skins. It should be, this extra shit that they want to do, or like this cool little fun intro animation. Like, there's so many things that they could sell to make extra money if they really care about that stuff. Well, I mean, obviously they care about money, but you know what I mean? Like, if they want to find a way to get extra money on top of it and tap into that market where they can start making bank off of players, then they should build the most fun core game that they possibly can. So you just want to play because the game is fun and the experience is fun. They hook you that way, and then just make all cosmetic bullshit. Like, I guess my point is, if I could just go into the game and choose whether I spend money on this extra shit, like if I see a really cool intro animation for Cyrax or something, and I'm like, oh, I gotta have that specific intro animation because it looks super cool, or outro animation, or this fatality, or I don't know, whatever the fuck, where they're gonna draw the line. But don't make it a grind. Like, let it be my choice whether I want to spend $1 to get this fucking intro animation for this character. Does
Well,
that make
here's
sense?
here's
Like,
the
don't
thing.
get in the way of the fun. You can
Here's the
have
thing
rules.
about 11. A thing about 11 that frustrated the shit out of me is the fact that the crypt boxes are randomized. Like, yeah, some of the stuff in those boxes is gear, but most of the crypt's content is like music tracks and concept art, which are things that are not for sale in any like area of the game the way cosmetics and
Right.
those intro and outro animations are. What's the point of randomizing your ability to unlock concept art? What's the
There's
point of
actually an
making
answer
me
to that.
like
And I
like
still, to this day, don't have a bunch of concept art unlocked. That shit's bugged.
I can somewhat explain that. I think one of the big discoveries of the last 5 years is there's actually more money in you booting up the game than there is in buying the loot boxes. And the reason is because if they can train people into logging on every single day, they'll see the ads. That's a big problem. Is people are only going to buy loot boxes insofar as they put times in the game. And if the time to live for the game is 2 weeks, 4 months, eventually that hits a ceiling. But if you can condition the player to turn the game on every day, they'll see the ad. And it's like, oh, I can purchase Soviet Nurse Tanya today, and that's or whatever, right?
here's
Yeah.
the problem. I can't purchase art of a costume. I can't. If
Well,
I
on
run
Thursday you can't, but on Friday you might be able to.
no,
That's why you have to
no,
log on.
that's the thing. That's the thing. The concept art is never in the store. It's not a store thing. It's not an option. And if I go through the entire crypt, refill it, and go through it again 4 times, and there's still pictures that I
God
can't
bless
get,
you for even trying.
I'm not going to log in every day. I'm going to give up, because obviously if I've done it 4 times and I can't get this picture, then something's wrong with the game and the picture won't unlock. The picture's not possible. And you know what? Over on MK Warehouse, Murdoink has gotten into the code and gotten all the pictures and put them up on the internet anyway. So I don't actually need to unlock them. Fuck it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that might be
It
the
would be
answer,
really,
right? Yeah.
really great if I didn't actually have to, wait for next Wednesday, the 13th of whatever the fuck at 2:35 a.m. in order to get Jax's arms.
There's no clock attached to when
Don't
you
talk about
can and
Jax's
can't unlock concept art. It's just not in there.
Jax's arms was crazy. There's some of those gear items in MK11. It's like
That is,
They would-
Jax's arms are the most baffling gear in the entire game,
there's some
because
stuff.
out of like 40 options, one of them looks like MKX, One of them looks like MK3, and 38 of them are the most ugly shit I've ever seen. There's like cloth and padding on them. They're supposed to be metal
Yeah.
arms. What the fuck?
Yeah,
Yeah, the colors were all fucked up too. What's up?
no, I was just gonna say, like, God, I forgot about all that shit. Like, it's no secret I quit that game very soon after, and I never completed the crypt. I completely forgot all about having to refill boxes and all that bullshit. Like,
Oh
oh my
yeah.
God,
Yeah,
it's so
11.
much worse than I remember. Like, it's just
Uh,
this kind of goes to my point of like, it's hard for me to think that this was purely done like to maximize profit. To
But
me,
it
this just
was.
seems like they took the worst ideas of how to go about trying to get
yeah,
money
no.
from their consumers and they went and made the game worse because of it. They made
Yeah,
the game a monotonous grind in the most like ridiculous way that is unfun. That it's my complaint about Injustice 2. Like Injustice 2, as much fun as I had with the gameplay, it started feeling like a chore to play because the thought of booting up the game, I didn't want to have to deal with gear at all. And the fact that I had to deal with gear to some degree meant that I couldn't just boot up the game and play it and have fun because I would be thinking about the gear. So it's like just the fact that it exists makes me not want to boot up the game and play it. So it has a negative impact. It's just like I never bought the game on Steam. I'm talking about MK11 because I didn't want to have to grind everything because I don't think your save goes from platform to platform. So I didn't want to boot up the game. I mean, I didn't want to purchase the game because I didn't want to have to deal with the grinding the towers again. And yeah, I could just buy the game and play the base version, but was Frost even unlocked out of the gate? So then I'd have to go unlock Frost, right? I think, right? Was she one of the
I
unlockables?
think Frost was
Unlockable.
the story mode unlock, yeah.
Okay, so it's like
Yeah.
I'd have to do that at the least, which sucks. And then or purchaser, which is more money through the thing unnecessarily, just because I don't want to have to go fucking beat it again. But that aside, like I can't just boot up the game and just enjoy the Frost outfit that I already unlocked on the other fucking platform. So that alone just made me not want to play it. The grinding of the towers, the fact that it even exists in the crypt and all that are reasons why I didn't want to repurchase the game on another platform and just instead just was like, okay, well then I just won't play it. I won't play it ever again. Like that's how
Yeah,
it
that's
literally went down, and I can't be the only person that felt that way.
definitely not. The thing is, like, the marketing guys had this research data from other games, mostly mobile, and these theories about what it meant and what would drive engagement and keep people logging in every day. But the way they were implemented in MK11 and Injustice 2 before it, every single time, instead of bringing you back to log in every day, it made you not want to play the game. It drove people away.
Right.
It had the opposite of the intended effect.
Exactly. And that's exactly my point is when the way you're trying to earn your money gets in the way of the player's enjoyment and starts to have the opposite effect and starts pushing people away instead of hooking them more, that's what I'm trying to suggest needs to be greatly adjusted, and you need to get rid of that guy or that guy needs to learn because there are ways that other games do it that are less intrusive, and yeah, they're still there. You still have the option to buy all these things and the DLC and whatnot and spend countless dollars on the game, and I'm okay with that. I am completely pro the company earning their money and me being able to enjoy the game. Like if you can accomplish both of those things, then awesome. I am two thumbs up. I'm not trying to say keep your money grabbing ways out of my game. Like I understand the business has changed, and that's just we can't do anything about that for the most part. I totally. I'm not trying to be a pie in the sky, like go back 20 years ago when this didn't exist. Like that would be awesome, but I understand it's just not the way companies work these days.
Well,
All I'm
let
saying is
me.
if you're going to earn your money, don't do it at the expense of the player. And I should never have such a negative aspect of a game that just makes it so I don't even want to turn it on and play it anymore. If that's the way you're designing this shit, like the gear and stuff, then you failed.
Well, let me pose a question because Mortal Kombat has always, let's say, I don't want to say outright copied off of other successful games, but they have definitely followed trends started by Street Fighter and Tekken throughout the entire existence of this franchise. That's just kind of how they do. Temp, how
Yep.
much does it cost to unlock everything in Tekken 7?
Oh, that's a good question. I actually don't know, but I know I did because I played a lot of Treasure Battle, right? And eventually, they just said you played Treasure Battle too long. We're just gonna unlock everything. Here's Hayachi's suit. I'm like, okay, that's cool. So I'd say that took about 15 hours in Treasure Battle.
Okay. And all of like the cost of the game and the DLC. So everything you could possibly spend real world money on in the game, what's the total?
I mean, including the DLC characters, right?
Yeah.
So the game and the DLC is probably gonna be like $120, I imagine.
Yeah, that's about what it costs to buy MK11 and 2 seasons of characters, right?
I was actually wrong. It's $109, but close enough, I guess.
Yeah.
So
I can
that's
find out.
lovely.
MK11 Steam.
Yeah,
And
because
is
it's
that
$60 game, 2 season passes, they were like 25 bucks each.
Something. I mean, DLC like packs have gone up quite a bit over the years, but it sounds like
Yeah.
you can get everything for about $70 from MK11.
Yeah, now the complete edition.
Yeah. Well,
So
no, I'm sorry. That's actually incorrect. I don't know. There's a bundle actually. Let me see how much Ultimate is. Well, I
Well,
mean,
I'm
it's
just
all discounted now, so I can't really say for
yeah,
sure. But
yeah.
go on.
so
I think
for
Ultimate was something like $50 on release.
yeah, so for 100 or so bucks and 10 hours, you can have all the Tekken there is. As opposed to if you bought MK11 on release, as opposed to getting the complete edition or whatever, and then you bought both season passes, you're paying almost the same amount of money, maybe a little bit less, and then how many hours to unlock everything, and you still don't have. I don't have every costume, and I'm a completionist. There's just some things you cannot get because the crypt won't give you all the art and music, and some of the skins are, locked behind their fucking ranked mode.
Well, so I hear your example about the concept art. You are correct that it's not apples to oranges, right? Because you can't pull out your wallet and like buy it on a Tuesday, right? But I think a lot of the logic is the same in the sense they want you to turn the console back on and try the crypt again over and over again.
Fuck that.
Yeah, I'm not going to because the crypt has consistently proven it won't give me anything new if I go back in
Well,
there.
I mean,
That's
it's
a
just
bug, not a feature.
it's
You
just
have
a
to
Cannot
flawed system.
100% the crypt. It's not possible.
they
Make
don't want
your game fun. Constantly add new things. That is the approach
If
they
you're
need to take.
if your objective for having players unlock things is in any way predicated upon the word random, go and sit in the corner.
Let
Well,
me.
You are bad.
my point
Let-
is like games have moved on from that. Like, yeah, games had the loot boxes, and for the most part, those games moved on from it. Like Overwatch and Rocket League and like all these games that had the loot boxes eventually got busted, and they're like, okay, we can't do this anymore. It's too gamblery, it's too predatory amongst children and shit like that with their mother's credit cards, and it's creating gambling problems. So they moved on. Now they show you what you're purchasing. I'm saying things evolve, obviously, as we all know. So it's like this next game, if your idea of keeping players engaged in your game is by these random ass like inability to get what you want out of the crypt and like weird ass like you got to be on at this time and this blah blah blah, like no, make a fun
No.
game that people
Yeah.
want to continually play and
Yeah.
then have events like okay.
Let me unlock what I want to unlock when I want to unlock it. Don't force me to marry your goddamn game. It's an escape mechanism. It's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be a lifestyle or a commitment. I
That's
don't
the
want
thing.
to marry you. I don't see a ring on
They
this
want-
finger.
They want player retention. Player retention is so valuable.
Oh, I get that.
So valuable.
Yeah,
But there's a right way and there's a wrong way.
No. Yes, the
No,
way you do retention, let the game and the fun part be the thing that keeps the player retention up.
Yeah, in
Not grinding
simple,
and working.
Right.
in
right.
simple terms that a businessman's mind can understand. What's my incentive?
Right.
Well, I'm going to disagree with everyone here, honestly. Not because you're wrong. I agree with. I am with you. Make fun games, get rid of the bullshit, right? But I think there's a bigger issue here because what happens is, and I can't prove this, but I am fairly certain this is the case. What they're doing is they want you to log on because they want to see they want to see what characters were most popular on November 17th. Then they compile that data, and then they compile the age groups for everyone in that demographic, and then they break that down into a graph, and then they scrub it so everyone's names and birthdays have been removed. And then they sell that to a company that has nothing to do with video games or fighting games. And then they look at that, they draft marketing data from that, and they find out how many people played Kano in November, and they conclude that people like bald things or some bullshit like that. And they just do that over and over again. There's no law that says they can't sell your data. They just can't sell your name on it, right?
I'm with you.
I
See, here's the thing.
That is what's going on. Yeah?
We don't fully disagree though. So I know you're disagreeing with everybody, but here's my.
I also agree with everyone though. Ethically, I am with everyone here. Go on.
Sure.
Yeah?
But here's the problem. I'm not anti what you're saying and what you're suggesting they're doing. Like
I am, but
no. Well, you know what I'm saying. Like I'm not. My point is that thing's gonna exist whether we like it or not. My point is there's a better way to go about it. And yes, if their idea is, okay, we need people to log on X many, they want to keep us logging on their game for whatever reason, for the data and so on and so forth, there's a better way to do it. Okay? Games have moved on to like the battle passes and the seasons, or like they'll have a season where they bring in new content at the start of the season. It lasts for, 50 days or whatever, so like 2 months. They'll have a mid-season update, so like a month in, they'll update some new like content in that mid-season update, and then the next season they'll start in with some new content. So if what this means for Mortal Kombat, right? So if let's just say they make the game super fun, they don't have all the bullshit of gear and like the grindiness, like you get rid of all the fucking grind factor for the most part, and just let the game speak for itself. The way you keep people coming back is at the season 1, they introduce 5 new characters, 4 new characters, whatever. That's their DLC pack, right? 2 new characters. Maybe they do less and they just do more seasons. They're introducing less, fewer new characters at a time. So let's do 2 new characters for season 1, a new arena, new things to earn in the battle pass, like new emblems for your profile, new intros for these characters, new this, new that. That's how you keep people coming back. That's season 1. Mid-season, they add in Bo Raicho, blah, 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 bullshit, and this fun new mode. And they bring in a whole new side mode. Like, they add in chess combat in season 3. Like, this is the shit that you do to keep people coming back and paying for your game, or investing more money. And you'll have free stuff for people that just want to play and not spend anymore. But then you'll also have the paid content, like if you want to purchase the Battle Pass. And you earn coins back if you purchase the Battle Pass. You earn coins back to purchase the next battle pass. And if you complete that battle pass, you earn enough coins to purchase the next. So that way it keeps paying for itself if you keep playing. This is how Call of Duty does it. This is how Fortnite does it. This is how all the big fucking AAA titles that rake in billions each year do it. They don't do this like, let's make this game as unfun as possible and grind and stupidly grind over and over and over for this shit that does not matter. They don't do that anymore. That's my point in all of this, is not to like not keep us coming back. It's to make coming back worth it every single time and make it a positive experience. Make that little endorphins in your brain go off when you unlock the new fun thing for that season. And you're like, well, I can't miss this season, otherwise I'll miss this new fun intro or this or that or whatever. Like, it's as simple as that. Just make seasonal content to keep people coming back.
Well, it's a problem with false positives, right? Because whatever they did in MK11, something worked because they did a very good job of having player retention. But if I go to Seattle like twice a month, and every time I go to Seattle, what's up?
I said, I'll say hello. I'm an hour out of Seattle. That's where I live.
Oh, okay. Let's say I go to Seattle twice a month, right? And every time I go, it rains. I conclude, wow, I am causing it to rain in Seattle. Obviously, it's a false positive. That's not what's actually happening. So it's possible that the retention actually has nothing to do with their sleazy data stealing bullshit, but I don't know. I think your method would work potentially better. The problem is something they did worked, and I think they concluded it was because of their logon,
Well, yeah.
Soviet reptile bullshit, right? So I don't know. It's tough, man.
I just think
For
it's
me,
hard.
it's like what I
Go ahead.
no,
Yeah.
I was just gonna say like again, like if you retain me by making the game the thing that's bringing me back, and I keep coming back over and over again, I'm gonna want to refresh it every once in a while, and
Right.
I'm gonna want to get that unlockable stuff or the purchasable stuff, just to make my experience a little fresh now and again. But that's not the reason that I'm coming there. I'm not coming back to the game to unlock things and to work for things. I'm coming back to the game to play the game, and if I keep doing that long enough, I'm gonna want to refresh, like I said, and get the new stuff. So
Right.
it's just a matter of what you're being retained to do. If you're being retained to play the game, that's the way to go. Not being
Right.
retained to
Right.
unlock
Right.
stuff.
In
I
That's
think
some
I
ways, I kind of wonder if Mortal Kombat, the series, hasn't become a little bit trapped by its own old school secrets and mythology and the whole notion of unlocking characters. And now we're kind of expanding that kind of line of thought to literally every single thing. Because I got off on like unlocking secret characters back in prior MK games and going into the crypt and whatnot and finding shit. That was a lot of fun. But like now it's like it's baked into it in a really unpleasant and overextended way.
Yeah, it's
Maybe
not
it's
like a
time to let
mystery
that go.
anymore.
It's not. No, yeah, exactly. The mystery is gone. Now it's work. It shouldn't feel like work ever.
You know what? I think if I could look at if I had hard statistics for the number of hours I have played 9, X, and 11, uh, I'm pretty sure in order of how much I've played them, it would go 9, X, then 11. And
Identical, completely
Yeah.
and it's
identical.
not because 9 has been out longer, because I haven't played 9 since X came out, and I haven't played X since 11 came out. But while 9 was out, I'm certain that I played more 9 than I have any of the 2 games that came after.
I straight up stopped right after Aftermath came out, and I had about maybe a week and a half of fun with Melina, maybe? I don't know. I did not go very far after Melina came out, her and Rain. I stopped very quickly afterwards. I couldn't with that game. And I had stopped for a while before Aftermath came out too.
Yeah,
The
the thing
grind
is,
turned me off from playing.
because the game will play itself for you in the towers, and that's how you unlock most of the gear. I'm not sure I've ever played Melina or Rain, really. I mean, I'm sure I've
sad.
pressed their buttons once or twice, but
Dude.
I don't remember a single thing about how they play.
I just like I don't know, like I get my ultimate point here is like I don't know how many of you play Fortnite or Call of Duty or any of these like games that have like insane player bases to this day after years of sustainability versus MK, which is in and out within 2 year lifespan because they're into the next game or whatever. And Temp, you say like the player retention was better on MK11. I would have to wonder if it's really because of the random crypt bullshit and the grind factor on the gear, which was completely unnecessary and superficial, or if it was more because they actually supported it a little bit longer with DLC and the pro community was there, doing running their tournaments and such. And then they put out Aftermath, which is obviously going to bring people back. My point is with all of that is like Call of Duty and Fortnite, just as like prime examples, and Rocket League does the same thing. And I know their player base is super huge, but like the thing that they have in common is one, they all go free to play. All three of those eventually went free to play. But two, they all do the season system that I was mentioning, and they all give you a reason within a 50-day span to come back to the game and experience the new content that they put out. And they do this seasonally, and they do it consistently. Like they're transparent about it. They say, okay, this is season one. This is what you can expect in season one. This is what you can expect halfway, at the half season mark. This is, after halfway through the season, they release a trailer for season two. Then, season two and a halfway mark, so on and so forth. Each season has a theme. And maybe this time it's an action pack. They're gonna have Terminator, this or whatever. Like all this extra bullshit. Like there is no reason why that. And I'm sure they're doing it for they do that with like Tekken and stuff, do they not? Like, I mean, I feel like other fighters, but just in general, let's put that aside. Let's just pretend I didn't say that. The biggest games these days, like the Fortnites and such, they're working so damn well for a reason, and there's no reason why NRS should not copy a proven formula that isn't pissing players off and aggravating the shit out of them and making them not want to play the game. There's no
It's so
reason why they can't copy that, because
Yeah.
all that is going to say is like you could easily just have never ending. That just means every season they put out a new character at the. I mean, Multiverse. Okay, Multiverse does the same thing. They do a season battle pass, and it works perfectly. That's another, I think, free to play game, or maybe it costs like $20 or whatever. I don't know.
Well, that apparently suffered a record breaking drop off on Steam. So I don't know what the full story on Multiverse is, but it's back to the problem of false positives, right? Is Fortnite popular because their marketing and their updating techniques are successful,
I think
or
so.
is it Spider-Man? And I don't know. Is it Goku? It's hard because there's so many correlations going on at the same time, right?
It's because they're
So-
constantly adding new shit. Like if you constantly
Yeah.
add new stuff, like every month or two, people are going to keep wanting to come back to your game as long as it's fun. Like with the caveat that at your core game is fun and people enjoy playing it. Let's say they stop playing, for a couple weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month. When they see the roadmap for the new season, they're going to jump back in just to check out the new content. I think that's a proven formula that's worked for these big AAA, hundreds of $1 million titles that break in billions per year.
But
Well,
these players, they
yeah.
love the game.
Right.
Like that's the thing. It's the game that's keeping going. Even with Fortnite, I don't play Fortnite, but people that love Fortnite
Love it.
Fortnite, and
Right.
there's so many people that love Fortnite. That's why every fucking game that gets announced looks like Fortnite. Well,
but they're always
that's for a
adding
lot
to
of reasons.
Yeah,
But
but as somebody, I don't play Fortnite, but I'm aware of what Fortnite does is,
yeah,
they change up the map, the giant map that you play on. They'll change that up, add new points of interest, new places to go. They add new characters, new DLC characters that people, that are popular, that are going to bring people in. They add in new weapons, they add in new skins, they add in new this or that, they add in new experiences, they add in new game modes that are completely different, that completely change the experience. And there's no reason why MK can't do the same damn thing. Like,
it's just
imagine
ways to
them
refresh
adding
the
chess
thing that people already love.
Yeah, imagine them adding chess combat, 6 months down the line, or motor combat, or the puzzle combat, or just random bullshit, or test your might. They add in new shit to do with other people, to keep the game going. It's just, or they add tag combat eventually. Like, there's no reason why they can't do this on a every 2 to 3 month basis, like all these other games are doing, and be transparent about it. That's the biggest challenge that I think that they need to face, is stop making everything so damn secretive. Like, just be transparent about what your plans are and say, here's what you're going to get in season 1. Here's what you're going to get in season 2. Here's what you have to look forward to in season 3, season 4. Give dates, give ideas of what people are to expect, so that they know that their time being invested is worth it beyond just the fun that they're having.
And
Something,
hopefully
Temp?
Warner Brothers lets them do that. Like Warner Brothers gives them like the information of like, okay, we're gonna give you this much more funding for this season,
Right.
so in advance. The developers know how to do a roadmap, because the developers have to know what they're gonna get as far as resources to be able to plan their own roadmaps well.
Sure.
And maybe some of that is Warner Brothers too.
And if that's the case, then the problem lies on WB. I'm not trying to like point fingers at any person or
No, yeah.
company either. I'm more just trying to I'm just, my mind. I'm frustrated because it's like, that's like when I play Warzone, right? Like Call of Duty Warzone, I know there's a timer up in the corner that counts down from the current season. It says 53 days, 8 hours left remaining in the season. I know when that's done, I'm getting new content. Like, how hard is it to just commit to something on a consistent schedule so that way you know when to check back for new information? Like, there's just so many things that they could be doing better
You
than to try
know,
and like vampire your time away from you. If that's their ultimate objective, there's just better ways to go about it, is what I'm saying. There's
I feel like
customer friendly, player friendly ways to accomplish their goal while still keeping us happy.
we've harped on the fact that the games are making us marathon a bit longer than we need to. So I move that we move on to the next topic. However,
You're
before we
right.
do, I would simply like to address two things. Number one, Cyborg, you just said that, this might be WB's doing, it might not be. And we all know for a fact that Warner Brothers has, in the past, shut down repeated attempts to allow us to play older MK games on modern consoles. I move that it does not matter whether or not we think they're responsible for our woes, we just assume that they are, because that's enough for me to crucify them. And number two, Temp, you
Yeah.
brought up a point earlier. I'm reminded of when I went to pre-order Mortal Kombat 11, and the clerk at the EB and I had a small discussion, and I'll never forget what he said. He said, "Man, I hope they figure out a way to put Spider-Man in this game." And I looked at him in the eye and I said, "You want to rip Peter Parker's head and spine off?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "You think Marvel will let this happen? You think that Marvel will work with Warner Brothers to let this happen?" He didn't have an answer for me. After I punted his head down the length of a football field on the way home, I thought about what he'd said for a bit, but I ultimately dismissed it. But Temp, you brought up a point. Fortnite had Spider-Man. Maybe bitches just love Spider-Man, and that guy was right.
Yeah,
Everybody loves Spider-Man.
it's
Come
very
on.
tight.
To be fair,
Bitches do
Fortnite's
love
had like
Spider-Man.
everything.
Yeah.
Everything
Yeah,
but
I mean-
MK, that is.
The reason Fortnite can get things and Mortal Kombat can't is fatalities. You know that, right?
Yes, violence.
Sure.
Yeah. Fortnite looks like a cartoon. So
I just wanted to make the point that once again, this fan base's need to rip spines out is holding them back from other things they want.
like
You know what I want?
what do you want?
I want a good movie, and maybe the writing would be better if it was PG-13. I'm not saying that there's a direct correlation, but I am saying that historically there was a really good movie that happened to be PG-13, and that MK can have people die in the movie without showing the gore. So,
I want pictures of Spider-Man. Razor, get me pictures.
pictures of Spider-Man.
I mean, to be honest with you, there's really only one thing I want from MK12, right? And that's to be able to do the things I learned in practice and training mode in a match. Because it was so disheartening in MK11 to work so hard in training mode and to go through so much like really crazy zoning options. And by the time you get in, they have a full defense gauge. That was so disheartening. It's like I finally got in. I start my juggle, they fall out of it. It was just exhausting, honestly. That's why
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't think any of us are gonna argue with you there. Like, we could talk about meters all day, and we have on the Warrior Shrine. Those meters are crazy. What the
Yeah,
hell?
we're not done either.
On the
Yeah.
topic of meter, I just want to say that I never, ever want to have an MK game where I have to burn meter to make a special move act the way it has for decades, okay? If you can't figure out a way to make a balanced game with Scorpion having his spear drag the opponent in without burning meter, something's wrong with you, okay? I still consider it a miracle that I didn't have to burn meter to make Sub-Zero freeze someone. I hate that shit. I would just love to be able to play characters in some way, shape, or form that's consistent with how they once played. You know?
They hate combos, man. They hate combos. They hate damage. They want people to stay engaged. They don't like it when one player stops playing. So every game, combos have been more and more diminished.
You know,
And
there is a fighting game out there that thought of a solution to that.
no, we're not playing Killer Instinct Razor.
It was maximum damage, wasn't it?
I'm just saying. Microsoft isn't making KI games right now. You could totally steal those mechanics and no one can stop you.
Breakers.
Counter breakers, man.
I
Breakers
just,
and counter breakers. That's so fucking smart. Way better than these fucking air tech roll bullshit.
until you play down 4 and you can't do combos ever again because he breaks everything, and then you
I'm
realize
okay
you're
with that. That is competition. That is true competition. All right. When I break your breaker that broke my breaker, now we're playing a real game.
Oh man, dude, Keats is a madman. I played because MKX was so bad and no one was playing Street Fighter 5. I pretty much made Killer Instinct all the way up till I switched over to Tekken 7. So almost till 2018. That was my main game, and it's fun, but the game is just insane. I can't play that anymore. It's too fucking wild.
It's the best. It's the king of the mountain. I will never not compare other fighting games to Killer Instinct. Killer
It's a great
Instinct
product.
has ruined me for other fighters. But if you're not going to do that, then just make MK9 again. Just go back to that engine and then balance it. Do whatever you got to do, but just make 9. No more, offense and defense meters. No more X-ray as a comeback mechanic separate from EXing. Just, I don't want to see a super every single match. Those animations get so fucking tired.
Those animations, the fatality animations. I mean, I don't want to watch the same interactive 15-second movie over and over.
No one talks about that either. You see your fatal blow and you see your opponent's fatal blow, and then you see a fatality. That is so much time. That all stacks. Everyone complains about those things individually, but they're all usually kind of like sandwiched into one experience, right?
It's check your phone time. It's like look over at your fucking microwave time. It's my God, keep me looking at the game from front to back. Keep me in the action.
I've tooted the horn of brutalities so much over the years.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna do it again.
Yeah. No, brutalities do need to take brutalities, put them in the 9 engine, and that's what 12 should be. And I don't need anything else.
You know what? I'll keep the crushing blows. I like the crushing blows. Like if you give me 2 seconds, 2 seconds of someone's ribs cracking as a close-up, I'm fine with that. I actually like that. It was a nice little detail. The specific criteria for making it happen, I'm cool with those.
I think the overall message here about a lot of what we've just discussed over the last hour is less is more. Like, capitalize and maximize less, and it can end up meaning more. Like, make your core system great, make the core designs great, just simplify where you can, but maximize. You don't need. I just when I think of crushing blows, or sorry, not crushing blows. What the hell are the supers called?
The fatal blows.
God, I can't even remember this shit.
That's another frustrating thing. The fact that those two mechanics have the same fucking name.
the fatal blows, the supers, whatever.
The crushing blows,
I'm totally
the fatal blows, the sucking blows.
I'm totally with you guys. It's just they become tedious, and it wouldn't help if they added one more per character. That is not the answer, so I hope that's not what they're thinking. I am totally with you in that those need to not exist. Brutalities should be the new fatalities. Those should stand on their own. Quicker is better, more efficient, less monotonous, less tedious, less redundant, and just in general, God, that would be so wonderful.
You know what though? I've thought about this though in the past. Assuming that brutalities are the new fatalities. You know, if it was just that, when would you have the opportunity to have someone say finish him? You know, would it happen at danger when someone's close to dying? Would you have to hear it maybe twice in a match if it's really close? How would they go about that? Because would you be willing to sacrifice that key MK moment? Or would you
Okay
also
with
just want brutalities on top of like regular 2D fatalities?
Yeah, I'm okay with keeping fatalities. I think they
They just
need
don't have to
to
be movies. Exactly.
No,
yeah,
they
yeah,
less
just
cinematic,
sort of
everything.
tone it a little bit back. Don't keep trying to top yourself every iteration.
I mean,
Because that becomes like an impossible task at a certain point.
in general, like less cinematic and more gameplay. We've said this is
Yeah.
the same with we've said about everything. Less grind, more gameplay. Less cinematic shit during the match. More gameplay, like more gameplay stuff. Stopping the thing to let me watch this long ass super and long ass fatalities, or both. Like
How do,
every match.
Are
how
you
do we
telling me
feel
that you
about how do we feel about the intros then?
intros I'm fine with? At least you
Yeah,
can
You
I
just
like
skip
skip
past those if you
those.
want
Skip.
to.
You
actually
can skip
my
them.
I like the
Yeah,
thing
intros are good.
is uh my favorite thing in MK11 is the that you can choose between 4 different intros and outros. But in terms of the 3 lines of dialogue, like I say something, you say something, I say something back before every fight, if they can't get the writing quality under control, if they can't get it back to where it was in MKX, then I'm okay with doing away with that shit. Because what 11 gave us with like 3 different characters being like, I killed Jared, I can't do that again. I can't. It's not acceptable.
Well, the reason why
Maybe don't have multiple different departments writing your dialogue.
Yeah, the
That's all
thing.
I
So
ask.
here's the difference in MK11. Intros are often used for Sean Kittleson to play with lore. In MKX, intros were just trash talk. They weren't somebody going, I did this thing off screen and you're just now finding out about it. They were just trash talk, and that was a million times better.
I guess yeah, the
That's
reason why I brought him up is not like I was just trying to gauge just because I find those kind of are very like after you've seen them once, you're just
well,
gonna be skipping them
I
every
mean,
time.
the thing is, like, MKX was also releasing new dialogue with every single patch. Like, Johnny Cage has 20 million different intros against every character, so they don't really get as boring seeing them over and over again.
Mm.
And the other thing that X did better than 11 at this is that the voices would change and the personalities would change depending on what skin you picked. Like if you're
Yeah, that was
regular Liu
great.
Kang, he talks like good guy Liu. And if you're Revenant Liu Kang, there's an evil guy echo on his voice and he's saying things that an evil character would say.
That was
And
great.
in 11, that's all out the window. You're getting Dark Raiden intros coming out of Light Raiden's mouth
Oh
and
yeah,
nobody cares.
I didn't know that. That's funny. Oh boy. All
I
right.
do like the in match quotes a lot. Like Sub Zero's right. Violence does beget violence.
Yeah, the mid match ones are pretty cool. I do like the okay. Well, I think we're at a point here where it's probably best to do just a quick roundtable of okay, so we've all talked about kind of some of the biggest problems of MK11 that we're hoping get alleviated in MK12. But let's just say all the things we've just talked about, like the core gameplay aside, that we want to be really solid. I want each person to just list the one thing that matters most to them that they hope they get right with MK12. So let's start with Django. What in MK12 are you hoping for most? It could be anything. It could be a character, it could be lore wise, could be gameplay wise, whatever it is. What do you think is going to be like the biggest upgrade that they can make for that game?
I really want a lot of ninjas, and I but I want a lot of ninjas but I want it to be fast, fun, and more like I said, Power Rangers Power Battles, where I can play a bunch of them and it's not super complicated and it's just easy to play in one. I know I did two things there, but still,
Sure.
I need
That's
those two
fine.
together. I don't want lots of ninjas and three variations and super complicated things. I need those two work together for me.
Okay. So looking for more of the ninja characters, so like the Ermacs and the reptiles and stuff, not left out, the
Smoke,
smokes, etc.
smoke.
And yeah,
Yes.
yeah, you can list more than one. I was mainly just trying to limit it to not put any expectation on somebody like a top five out, off the cuff type
Oh,
of thing. But
Takeda too. Good
um,
God.
okay, so we got that. You want simpler gameplay, a little bit easier pick up and play, and be able to learn more characters. Probably easier. Just have fun and just have a good time and more ninjas. Razor.
I mean, I could say a lot of like specific characters like, Smoke or Serena or whatever. I could say story-wise, I just want them to abandon multiverses and time travel and go back to having one coherent story.
Right.
But at this point, if I'm narrowing it down to one single thing, I'm PC Master Race now. I'm not getting a next gen console, so I can't own the game unless there's a decent PC port.
Makes sense. I mean, that's not so. Like I said, I think we mentioned that earlier, but that is not something I thought about right
That's
now.
And
good.
That's a good.
historically, it's not common. They've
MK11
usually
was
had
No,
good though,
problems.
right?
not
MK11
for MK.
PC.
I don't know actually. I think X was an ass fest, but I'm not.
I know that 9 and X were a fucking
Yeah,
nightmare,
they
and
were a wreck. I think
I
MK11 was pretty good though. I think I own it. I just don't remember.
I did not hear that 11's port was a shit show, so I'm assuming it was okay.
I
Not on
really
There's
hope
only
Switch, it
so.
wasn't.
there
Not
was
on
one problem
Switch.
with it.
Well,
The one
Switch, yeah,
issue.
that's not surprising. But
Well,
Well,
Switch, I mean, that's a fool's errand even porting a
That's
modern
different.
game to a Switch. Whatever.
I do think even to this day, crossplay only works between Xbox and PlayStation. I don't think PC crossplays with consoles, but I have to double check that. So, if any of the
Uh,
listeners know otherwise, let me
there,
know.
you can have it work. I know this from my days in the industry. You have to jump through a lot of hoops, but it is possible.
It's definitely possible,
I mean,
but they
other
didn't do
games
it.
I'm able to cross-play on my PC with people who are on Xbox or PlayStation.
oh yeah, like
Oh yeah,
Warzone.
this was
Like
a
I said,
dev
I
call.
yeah,
This is
Fortnite can
that.
cross-play
Yeah.
anything with anything.
Rocket
I've been playing a
League.
lot of that new Ghostbusters asymmetric game, Spirits Unleashed. It has cross-play between every console and
It's pretty
PC.
standard for the biggest titles these days to have that. Like Warzone, which is I play with people on Xbox and PlayStation, and I'm on PC. So I would hope that is one thing that because yeah, I'm not buying a new console for the game, so it better work well on PC, and I better be able to play it with console players. So that would really suck.
I'm sure we will. I don't know what went wrong with MK11, but I'm positive they're not going to skip that this time.
Well, it's been several years since 11 came out, and the industry has sort of changed rapidly on the subject of crossplay in that time.
You
Yeah,
are
Guilty
right
Gear
though,
as
Tim.
of today. What's up?
You are right, though. It is between. I just looked it up. It's between PlayStation and Xbox. It does not include PC, Switch, or Stadia.
Oh no, not Stadia.
Oh no!
This article lists that
All those
Of the
specifically.
children!
all those poor Stadia owners.
But yeah,
Paulo would
that's
often
pretty
be in
crazy.
Eris's chat, and Eris is talking shit about Stadia. He's like, "Hey, Paulo, how's that Stadia port?" And Paulo's like, yeah, "It's pretty bad."
When I
But
was
yeah,
when I was at Ubisoft last year, one of the dudes on the Microsoft compliance team quit, and he went to their newly opened Stadia position to be the head of the Stadia compliance team. And I remember clapping on the shoulder and looking him in the eyes and going, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" He
The
legitimately
Stadia.
thought this was going to work. It was amazing.
sad.
Well,
Okay, so far we got simpler to play, more like kind of like the Power Rangers game, and more ninjas, which everybody's on board with that. And then we got just being able to work well on a PC at launch and crossplay would be great. Shad, what are you thinking? What is most important to you?
Smoke!
What is the need? What do you think
Smoke!
is like make or break for this game?
Smoke!
Sorry, was
Smoke!
that
Smoke!
Smoke.
sounds like
Are
like
you
the
Who let
smoking
goose.
yet?
duck into the recording booth?
Smoke!
Okay, so
Why?
Smoke, you're
Why?
fed up waiting on Smoke, and
Okay,
you
no,
need
like-
Smoke in this game finally.
Seriously, like, I get it. Everyone needs to take a bit of a break, but just something about 11 and having Jade and Noob Saibot in the game and not Smoke as an old school MK2 head kind of really made me want to jab out someone's eyes with a rusty fork.
Now you got him as Triborg in X. How do you feel about that?
Kill me with a fucking knife
Okay, so you
through the
choose.
roof of my mouth.
So Triborg wasn't satisfactory for you as a Smoke fan?
Playing Triborg and looking for Smoke was like going to a family reunion and looking forward to seeing your uncle who you haven't seen in a while, except that now he's on heroin. And you don't really remember him acting the way he did.
Well, yeah, I mean, Smoke has all this story shit that's been going on since 9.
Yeah, I
That's
mean
been
it's
I
said,
mean,
but not fulfilled.
even
that-
in gameplay
Can't
mode, man,
relate
Triborg's
with Cyrex
Smoke
or
was
anything.
weird in X. It didn't feel right.
I
but-
mean it's just like going, Reptile's not in this game. I want to play Reptile, and then someone goes, "What do you mean? Reptile's right here," and they point at Chameleon. That's exactly
Anyway.
what it is.
Hey man,
Like, I mean-
I'm with you. I was just seeing how you felt. That's all.
honestly, I have a really hard time narrowing it down to one thing because 11 let me down in a number of ways. I'm still kind of bitter about it. Like you, I think my primary concern is I just want the game to be fun. That's all I'm asking for. Maybe that and a less offensively idiotic Shao Kahn. I don't know. I want so many things, you know. I would like some sense of consistency out of the cast. I would like to not have to relearn every character from the ground up with every subsequent game.
Yeah.
I would like less over-designed outfits. I think I just want MK to be in a different place than it currently is.
I think
There are
that-
there are days when I'm like, you know, if I had to have the next MK game be something, I take an action adventure game. You know, that's where I am so often. I know it's not gonna happen, but God, MK11 left such a bad taste in my mouth.
Hey man,
And-
you got Onslaught.
Oh man,
Oh, one day we're gonna have to talk
man.
about Onslaught.
We're over.
Hey, I
for
played it
that.
for like a couple hours.
I played
Maybe.
through the story, what they generously call a story, and I have concerns between it and Snowblind about the future of
This franchise.
the concept of continuity
No,
in
dude, throw
future
it out.
MK games.
It doesn't exist anymore. Just no.
That's the problem.
That's a conversation for another time. But assuming that MK11 is any kind of masterful trilogy Armageddon style game, and that we're continuing off of 11's ending, which I really want to state for the record, we shouldn't. I don't want to go on after that
No, I
for multiple
maintain
reasons.
I maintain Liu Kang becoming a god is a happy ending. Cut off the series there and start
Yes.
over from scratch in 12.
Honest to God, yes.
Like, let
I
that
think-
be the end of that universe and just start anew.
Well, we know
If
12 takes
if-
place right after 11, so are you saying just
We know
kind of
that.
kind of reboot it?
If I have one
Yeah.
single plot wish out of the next MK game, it's yes. It's a complete reboot. Fresh. Start it from a tournament, don't start it from a tournament, do something completely different. I don't care. I don't want to go through any more time comparing this timeline to that timeline to this timeline to whatever the hell's
no
going on.
more,
I'm so fed up of it.
No more everything being connected through time travel or multiverses. Just do. You know how if you're a
You know-
fan of Ninja Turtles, you watch the 80s cartoon and you watch the 1990 movie, and then like you watch the 2012 CGI cartoon, none of them are actually connected.
But they
None
all
of them are
feel
sequels to each other.
but they all feel like Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
You know what we kind of
just
need?
do that.
We need a Deadly Alliance. We need something that kind of goes back to the roots of like what MK is. Just bring us back to a little bit of that Shaw Brothers Hong Kong kung fu feel, you know? I
That's
think
how I,
that's what I'm missing.
that's how I feel about the gameplay. Like when we were talking about earlier about simpler and going back to just one move sets and just a few specials, nothing too crazy. It's like if I'm playing a Mortal Kombat game with my friend, which I do occasionally, I'm playing Mortal Kombat 2. I'm playing Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. I'm not playing any of the new ones, which is crazy. I mean, I still love like well, I can't say I love because I mean I haven't played it in forever, so who knows? And we've talked about all the issues tonight, but I enjoyed my time actually getting to play MK11 when I did. I enjoyed MKX. I enjoyed MK9, but none of those. Well, outside of MK9, but like when I think of MK and when I think of like, hey, let's just boot it up and run a few matches for like 2 hours, it's still the simple old ones. You know what I mean? Like, it's still the ones where I can pick it up and know all the moves within seconds of trying a few button combinations and
Yeah,
I'm good to go. Like,
yeah.
that's what I'm looking for. Like, I
An
just want to be
an
able to have
arcadey Mortal
fun.
Kombat would be
Yes.
amazing.
Like
Amazing.
just pick it up and play. Like I want to be able to know like 8 characters. You know what I mean? Like I can't know 8 characters in any of the new ones because I don't have an endless amount of time to learn every little facet of every little variation of every little this and that and the other thing. Like you could in the old ones, you could just play 8 characters, a random select a character, and still have a good idea of what the fuck you were doing with that character. You just can't do that anymore. But anyways, that's just kind of piggybacking off what you said, Shad. I think going back to simpler times and the roots of MK would be a wonderful thing. And
Back in our days when things made sense.
well, I think they just try
Yeah,
and
and even
overcomplicate things. They just try and add so many layers because of that's what you do these days with games. But I mean, I think it's a lot of those layers detract from the overall like core experience when they add in so many different avenues with every little thing. I think they're just especially with what Temp said earlier, like people want their roster. They want their characters, man. Like, especially if you've gone 2 games or more without your character. Like, I haven't touched Cyrax in forever, I haven't got to touch Kenshi in a game, and it was great to have Frost back, but it's like, like
that's not
if it,
really Frost, though.
well,
Like
I
moves
still in
wise, it doesn't feel
sure.
anything.
Sure, no,
Like,
I'm talking MK11 Frost, right? Yeah,
yeah,
it is
yeah.
a very different Frost. I still enjoyed her for what she was and had a lot of fun, but like, if you haven't had your character in a while, like, I that sucks, and that I think that's a problem. That's a new problem because I don't think in MK9 I don't remember like this huge. Maybe because back then Twitter wasn't like as
You know
prominent, but like
what
it
I
wasn't
remember when 9 came out was a sort of celebratory feeling of the characters are back.
right.
Because you have to remember, like, the 3D era, Sonya and Jax and Johnny Cage and Raiden played nothing like they used to play. Like,
Mm-hmm.
characters were missing most of their moves. Jax had, like, the gotcha grab replaced by that piston punch thing and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, versus DC came out and all their moves were back that you remembered from, like, Ultimate MK3. And it was like a little bit mitigated by the fact that it was versus DC and there were problems with the engine.
Right. It was a
But there was
step towards
still,
the right direction.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was, and then 9 came out and it finally felt like this is
Mortal
a
Kombat.
modern version of Ultimate MK3. This is how the characters are supposed to feel. This is great. And in X, they were a little bit less of what of how they were supposed to feel, quote unquote, supposed.
Yeah.
And then
I
in
get what you mean.
11 a little bit less, and everything is sort of stepping away from that feeling that you want, that you got from 9 of yes, this is the moves Sonya's supposed to have. These are the moves Johnny Cage is supposed to have. This feels right.
Yeah. And simple in a lot of ways. I mean, MK9 was
Yes.
still fairly simple compared to what X and 11 tried to do in a lot of ways. I mean, not just the gameplay, but just in general. They kept adding more and more layers of clothing basically onto things to where, yeah, you start to lose that nostalgic core feeling. Instead, it feels like what we got with the 3D era, like you said, kind of where it just like it was still MK and there was still a lot of MK things, but as you progressed, it started straying from that formula that in a way that Street Fighter and Tekken don't really do. Like they kind of keep their core formula, and as far as I'm aware, I mean, like I said, I'm not like a big fan of those, but they don't. I feel like they harness their core more than
Yeah.
MK does. MK is always trying to change things up, which commendable, but at the same time, you can overdo it
When you
and
do it
lose
to move
yourself.
sets, it tends to like people don't feel like their character is back, even though they're right there. It's like this is not what I wanted.
It's the same reason why I think people are like, "Oh, well, I loved MK9 Johnny, but I don't love MKX Johnny. I love
Yeah.
MK11
I'm
Johnny, but I didn't like MKX Johnny." Like
I'm gonna
people,
be
your favorite character might be a specific iteration of a character because of how different they are.
I'm gonna be really fair here because we're kind of talking like there were just wild brushstrokes over every single character and they got it all wrong. But you know, it was entirely possible to like play an MK1 version of Johnny or an MK2 version of Johnny because of that variation system, because they gave him the
That's
straight fireball, they gave him the
that's
up and down
true.
fireballs. And I would like to see more of that.
And yeah,
More of that
like
and hang on, more of that and less giving Sonya a drone and
that's the
taking away
one.
taking away her goddamned leg grab.
Sonya's core concept, like her archetype as a fighter, is supposed to be like agile, nimble, does cartwheels and flips, uses her legs. And they completely reimagined her as MMA and military hardware.
Sir, yes, sir. Hooah.
Why didn't they just give those moves to Cassie, who's a new character who could use her own flavor?
I mean, at least they gave her a drone, but why did they both need to have drones?
Yeah, that's
They're the
weird.
drones. That's what they call
Like, I
themselves.
just there's this. I think that maybe that's the thing. That's the thing that I would just love more than anything else going forward out of MK is just stop trying to reinvent yourself every single time, because when you do that, you have no identity in terms of character designs, physical, visual, gameplay. Like there was a certain sense of evolution from MK1 all the way up to like MK4. It felt like I was playing different versions of a better game and better and better and better. And then afterwards, it's all like herky jerky. Then I get back to brightness with MK9, and then I'm in the woods again. You
You
know,
know, that's it. That's the thing. Is like the reason when people talk about Mortal Kombat casually, the only identity the franchise has that it consistently holds on to is fatalities and gore. Every single other thing about like the flavor and the identity of Mortal Kombat as a brand is constantly shifting and changing, which means it doesn't have one.
Damn, we got deep. This is the Netherkast TED Talk.
I mean, it's dangerous territory, right? Because it's like the problem with saying anything about variations is you run the risk of talking an hour about variations, right? But
Mm-hmm.
the only word of caution I would give to the anti-variation crowd, which is not to be confused with the pro-custom crowd or any custom crowd, is that if you take out variations, you run the risk that maybe Sonya only has the drone. So you can't, there's no safe road.
That's
All
why
roads
I,
are potentially dangerous.
that's why I'm saying the absolute first thing you have to do when designing a character is slot in their trilogy moves.
I've
Don't
always
That's fair.
hated.
anything until they have the classics, the things that are expected.
I
Then you
feel
can
like
dick around.
there is just such a hesitancy on their part to admit that there are even classic things, but it has to be stated for the record. These characters have established identities via the arcade era. I know that those games are decades old, well before most of his current audience was even playing them, but it doesn't matter. They're there. Scorpion has a spear and a teleport punch, and usually an air throw. Sometimes a weird leg throw move.
You know
Sub-Zero
what?
has a freeze and a slide, and other different tools, but he's always got those two. And Sonya has a damned leg grab.
I mean,
Super
to
Take these
really,
things
Mario.
away.
Super Mario has been wearing the same clothes, jumping into the same question blocks, jumping on top of the same Goombas and Koopa Troopas for like 40 years, and it still sells
I
even
mean,
more
this.
than it did in the NES. It's just as popular. Like, we got a fucking movie coming out that celebrates that stuff instead
That
of
movie
running
looks
from it.
sick.
I hear he's going to use a gun.
I'm
It's going to
about
be
it.
tight.
If it's a super scope, that's on brand.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, Temp. What do you got?
I mean, if there's one thing they have to add, and this is especially true coming off MK11, you gotta add guest character Mike Boone. I really feel
God
like
damn it.
that's what the series has been missing for a long time. My second choice was Frank Stallone.
You know what? We had secret character Carlos Pacino once. There's no reason
Yeah.
Mike Boone can't be the next mocap.
No. There's no reason. There's no. So jokes aside, like I kind of hinted at it already, but if I work my ass off learning something in training mode, I want it to be viable in a match. So just let combos is one example, but it's anything. When I was learning Scorpion MK11, I spent so much time doing dual confirms. A normal confirm is when you do a combo string, and if it's blocked, you don't do the special. But if it isn't blocked, then you do the special. And then you do your combo. Well, there are some characters where the chain itself is unsafe. So with Scorpion, I'd have to practice doing the chain, and it's not either do or don't do the special. It's not A or not A. It's you do the string, and if you get the hit, you do the combo started special, which is unsafe. But if you don't get the hit, then you do the safe special, which resets neutral. And that took a lot of time. I spent hours trying to get that down. And to do that in a match, only for the person just to break out of your combo after the sweat and blood of trying to grind that shit in training mode, it's just not fun. It's very disheartening, especially when you are chasing people. You are chasing Cetrion. You are chasing fucking Sindel. You are chasing Zoning Cassie. You are chasing like the shittiest version of Scarlet. And it's just not fun. And by the time you get there, guess what bar has just been refilled? And meanwhile, Sony has a 12 frame projectile because fuck it. I just no. Let me do the fun shit that I learned. Okay, whatever that is. I was probably the most not optimistic, really, but I was the most open minded to saying, hey, maybe MK11 has more depth than we think. And to be honest with you, it didn't. But I was okay with that because I found the combos I liked. I found Lao. Lao could do cool juggle combos. He had the longest combos out of any character. I'm going to main Lao. And then people kept falling out of my fucking combos. So
I remember.
Yeah.
I remember when MKX came out, and I got my hands on Liu Kang for the first time, and I was, playing online and pushing a bunch of like 14-year-olds who've never played an MK game before's shit in, and that was, I just sort of, it immediately felt natural and felt good. And then I remember when we went to the reveal event for 11, and we were playing the game for the first time there, and something felt wrong to me then. Something just felt off, and I was like, I'm not like, this feels stiff and slow, and I can't get anything going. And I had a feeling in my gut, this game isn't good. I'm not enjoying it.
It's like I remember that too. Like I remember going, the motion feels weird and slow and stilted, but at that point in time I thought to myself, okay, they realized that they maybe kind of overcorrected with the running and the quickness in MKX. Now they want to maybe dial it back to a kind of MK2 pace. All right, I can deal with that. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah,
It
there
didn't
was a
feel like
there was a lot of sort of apologizing for it, and well, it's an early build. Maybe they'll tweak it. And no, I should have gone with my gut instinct.
more than anything, the game just kind of wound up feeling like Street Fighter in so many ways.
But you know what? I think some things actually did feel better compared to X, and one of those was Johnny Cage. I really liked the fact they didn't bring back MK9 Johnny Cage, but they did bring back MK9 Johnny Cage's corner combos.
Johnny
So it's
did
like,
feel better,
and
but that's
really,
because
yeah,
Johnny felt bad in X. Like the characters that were good in X got way worse.
50-50
I always
Johnny is
talk
so
about.
weird. Yeah.
I was just gonna say I always shield for Fujin, and I still will. Fujin MK11 is so fucking great. I love
Fujin is
just
one of the bright spots of 11. His moves
Yeah.
do feel good. He
they
kind of
do.
feels like he's playing a different video game than
He
everybody else
does.
is.
Yeah.
Whenever Citrion goes up to do that like air beam thing she does, and I like air slam her just right out of the air, wherever anywhere she's doing that shit. It's so great. It's so good.
You know
Just
what else
give
felt
me
good?
what's that?
I'm about to praise a guest character here. Spawn. Spawn felt really good for some reason.
He's fun.
It
He's
was
fun.
satisfying. I loved
I
EXing
miss
those
that
machine
feeling.
guns and just EXing those machine guns and just walking into the guy while firing felt so good.
I also really appreciate staggers in MK11, you know? I like the idea that if I do anything, my turn isn't necessarily over. Because imagine you're watching a bar fight and some guy throws a punch and immediately starts blocking. How weird would that look to you, right? In MK11, like the frame duration was lowered. The frames, even if they were bad, they weren't reactably bad, so you can keep doing shit. Now people hated that because it turned into a throw fest, but it turned into a throw fest because they nerfed chip damage and they nerfed combos. So I hope people don't blame Staggers for that. It wasn't the Staggers' fault. It's the fact that MK11 was a shitty game. That was the real problem there. So yeah, yeah. So that, but yeah. So just let me do the fun shit. I was content with MK11's mechanics. I was just sad that I could not do any of them. I liked the anti-air combos, but jump kicks were so good they weren't a factor. They weren't in the meta. So but yeah, that concludes my point. Just let me do the fun stuff. And Mike Boone. Add Mike Boone.
I'll tell you what. Speaking of the reveal event and Mike Boone, I can tell Mike Boone is the type of man that if I went up and shook his hand and told him appreciate what he does for me, and then I asked him for a picture, he wouldn't turn me down. He'd probably,
Yeah, he seems like a nice guy.
hey, it's fucking Mike Boone. He's the
I,
he's like the guy that doesn't get any recognition. When do you hear about Mike Boone except for from Temp's mouth?
well, I'm sure he loves that when he logs onto Twitter. I'm sure he prefers that, right? Yeah, and where is Melina? So yeah, just I'm sure that worked out for him.
All right. So we got simpler, like Power Rangers, easier to pick up and play. We got more ninjas. We got it's got to be good on PC at launch and cross-platform, which please, because yeah, I need that too. We got just kind of going back to its roots a bit, and smoke.
I mean, just call it simplification. Call it compartmentalization. Call it forming a core identity
Exactly.
or accepting what you have and running with it.
Right.
And yes, also smoke.
And
meat.
then
Oh,
and then we
fucking
got being able to do cool shit, and like the stuff that you practice and spend your time on, to be able to do it online without constantly having people roll out of it and shit like that. Just let people have their fun and not constantly cock block them. And then for me, I think it's mainly just I think the most important thing for me is, I mean, all of that I think could easily be the top of my list as well, which why I love those picks. For me is I just want it's kind of like the simpler. I just want a classic Mortal Kombat that I feel like I'm gonna return to time and time again. And I want every reason to play the game and no reasons not to play the game. Give me a team mode, give me tag team, whatever, to where I can team up with other people and enjoy, where we can all get together, like 4 of us can jump in a call and all have our fun. That's what I want. I want to be able to play this game with multiple people. I want it to be supported for a long time, give me every reason to come back, and no issues in the way of like no turnoffs where it's just not worth the pudding, basically. Not the proof, whatever the fuck that saying is called. To
The
where
poop is in the pudding.
Sure. The poop is in the pudding. Yes, that one. That's exactly what I was thinking of. But yes, I just feel like there was a lot of turnoffs with MK11 and Injustice 2, mainly the gear systems and stuff like that, for me specifically, to
Well,
where
I mean, it was most extreme with you, but I think the whole channel was feeling a burnout with 11 because you can tell from how our content has slowed down.
yeah, well, I mean, it's like, and even when I came back, like, so there was times where I'm like, all right, like when Aftermath came out or was coming out, like it regained my interest. So I'm like, I'm checking back in. But by that time, Temp was no longer interested in the game. Hell, I think he went back to MKX, like, which he never wanted to play that game.
Yeah, my opinion of MKX actually has gone up quite a bit.
So
I
it's
still don't
like,
want to play it much, but yeah.
sure. Well, I'm just saying, like, I want more than anything. I just want this next game to be the game that everybody loves playing for years and years to come. I want another MK9 experience where people are like, "Can we just go back and play this one?" Like, I want that because I just want a fun experience and not have it be super. I don't need super technical. I don't need super this or super depth. I just want it to be fun at its very core surface level where I can pick it up with friends. And I did that with MK9. Like before MK9 even came out, I think my brother got like one of those like torrented copies that leaked early or whatever the weekend before MK9 came out. And so I went over to his house to play it on his modded Xbox, and we played tag team, like local, like 2 of us and against 2 other people, and we swapped out because there was like 5 or 6 of us there at the time, and that was a lot of fun. Like I want just a group experience. I know like fighters are just 1v1 typically, and I get that, and you have King of the Hill for the more group things, but just more ways to play the game and enjoy it and not have it be super serious. Because guess what? It's, like if I play D4, I'm probably going to get my ass kicked. So it's like, that's fun for a while, beating your head against a wall and trying to improve and just trying to like be ultra competitive and sweaty, as they say these days. That's fun. I enjoy that aspect too, the competitive aspect. But sometimes you just want to chill and have a good time. And I think, and no, I don't mean like test your luck in like dumb bullshit modes where it's just like completely silly garbage. Like I want it to actually be a genuinely fun time together. Like we have the community for it to be able to
Yeah.
run. Like that's the sad thing is back when MKX was big with the team combat and stuff, like where that was actually an option, and it suffered from shitty internet at that point. But we didn't have the community to all get together as a group and just play some Mortal Kombat together. Now we do. And
It would be
that's
nice
what I
to have a
want.
game that sort of brings us all together as a group, without, that feeling of we're playing to be competitive, we're trying to be like esports or whatever.
Well, I mean,
Like
here's
I
the
don't
thing. Like you like back when we played MK9 for that brief period leading up to MKX, even with the crappy internet at the time, like we all had a lot of fun back then, and I
yeah,
think a large reason for that is because the game was simpler. You could just pick it up and mash your combos out, like with Liu Kang or Kung Lao, like you would do at that point, and you still had a good time. I had a good, fun time learning Kenshi and Liu Kang at the time, but and Temp had fun doing his smoke, 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 and all that shit, and it's like we all had a good time doing that. But I think a big part of that is because MK9 was so much simpler and like easier to pick up and play, but it still had some depth to it if that was your bag, to
there was
where and
a
you was
there
allowed
was
you to do your
an
cool
almost
shit.
there was almost a party game feel to it, even though it was just a a fighting game. it still felt less like work. It felt less like I'm trying to make it to Evo, which is kind of what playing X and even more so 11 felt like. Like it was, if I'm going to play this and get good at it, I'm doing it almost like it's a job. I'm not having fun.
Well, that's
Yeah.
the paradox of MK11 is that no one liked it, because the lore guys were pissed, and then the gameplay guys were pissed, and then the pros were pissed. Because there's one of the very few people who actually did enthusiastically like MK11 was Ultra David, and Ultra David eventually said, "I won't even talk about MK11 on Twitter anymore because I just can't. The conversation is so toxic now." Everyone hated 11. No one was in that. Almost no one was in that camp.
I'm
I hope
reminded.
they learn from that. What's up?
I'm reminded of the days back when GameFAQs was the place to be, and the fighting game board on GameFAQs, where if you mention Mortal Kombat, you were treated as a joke.
Oh yeah, it was
Like
that board was,
so
like,
bad.
you know how Evo is basically Street Fighter the tournament.
Yeah, like
That was a microcosm of that.
I
it
mean,
was.
even
It was.
MKO
It
was
was
like
early
that to an
days.
extent. Like MKO, there's always these like 3 or 4 assholes who are like, "Why do they focus on story? They should work on the gameplay." Third Strike, and I'm like, "Listen, dude. If the writers stop writing the story, they're not going to start programming animations, dude. All right, these are completely separate spheres.
Yeah.
They
My
don't
point.
interact." Yeah.
My point is, I took a lot of shit just for liking Mortal Kombat, and they're like, "It's not even a real game. It's like a real fighting game. It's a party game." To which I replied, "I don't care. Gobble my knob. Fuck you. It's a fun game. That's what counts."
Well, and here's I think what we all want is we want a game that loves us back. We want a game that feels like it. That's a. I mean, this could be a whole nother thing that I won't go into, but like that was kind of my big kind of turn off with NRS to begin with is between the secrecy and the trolling and the dangling little carrots on strings with characters and teasing people that like specific characters or, like kind of just like all the bullshit that you get on Twitter or during the streams or just the way they announce things, which I know isn't all their decision, obviously. WB plays a factor and all that. It just felt like being a fan of their game was not I did not feel loved back in a lot of the ways
Yeah.
leading up to MK11 and post MK11. It almost became a negative in my life, and that's part of the reason why I stepped away. Obviously, dealing with a lot of real life stuff, but like, and I know I teased earlier, but like even meeting Ed Boon and like the way I kind of got received during that situation, I don't know if it was his fault or WB's fault, but I felt really sour leaving that when you kind of meet one of the dudes that like not necessarily you look up to, but is like the main guy behind the franchise that you've poured hundreds, thousands upon thousands of hours discussing for so many years, and then they're just kind of like shoot you down like I did in a way that felt almost personal, even though I'm sure it wasn't. It was just bullshit, like being
Yeah, that's the
busy and
thing.
such.
Like,
But like it just felt like it got to
It
a
was.
point where
Remember, we were both
this
there, and it was.
franchise didn't love me back, and that kind of sucks, like to be a part of.
Remember, we were both there, and it's like it's a business thing. Like everything that Ed does is like he has WB people looking over
yeah,
his
Oh, I
there
shoulder.
know.
were
Like,
handlers.
No,
That's
I
the thing.
know.
Like, I've
I
been
know.
like
over the
you went up
years
to
of
him.
this podcast, I've been particularly like critical and adversarial towards Ed. Like, I'm not sure I like him as a person. I'm not sure that I approve of his values as a game developer and that kind of thing. But a lot of that, when I really examine it, a lot of that's not Ed's fault.
Uh,
Ed
I
is
mean,
I don't think it's even because of anything that we've
Ed
said.
is
We're not any kind of
no.
blacklist.
Well, here's the thing, though. Like, I'm not just talking about my experience. Like, right? So, like, when I was hanging out with like Rain Reptile, right? And somebody goes up to him to take a picture, and he says, "You have 5 seconds," and he's counting down 5, 4, 3, as this
yeah.
dude's girlfriend's fumbling with his phone to get the phone to take a picture in time, and he reaches 0, and Ed's just like, "All right, can't take a picture," and he's ultimate like ultra serious, and this dude looks crushed, and he's like looking at his girlfriend like, "What the fuck? Like you fucked up my opportunity to get." Like when you see something like that, it's just like, and I know, like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
None of this really matters. I'm just saying, like, you add in like all the things that go on, like on Twitter, and I know, like, I don't know what it's like being somebody like him. Like, I'm sure he just gets nonstop bullshit from all ends of it, right? From WB, from fans. Like, I would hate to be in that position. So I can't
Yeah,
imagine what that
that's
would
what
do
I
I don't
to
say
know.
him.
when I
Like,
don't think it's entirely his fault. But the thing is, like, on every single level when it comes to this franchise and the people behind it and the people who are the public face of it, like Lansdowne and 16-bit, it's gotten way too corporate and way too fake,
I mean,
Well,
maybe
and
I
that's
just
what
lucked out
bothers
because
me.
I just walked up to the guy and went, "Hey, man, here's me kissing your ass. Thanks for all the games all these years. Can I get a picture?" And he was like, "Sure."
here's
So
the
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think
thing,
I
if
just
you
though.
could
got
get
lucky.
if you could get a moment with that away from his handlers, he was a lot cooler.
Well, he was
Because
also
we
on
did
camera
eventually
during
get a
that.
picture with him.
He was on camera during that. Like, our whole interaction, us as a group, like when we all got that group picture towards the end, that was on the Xbox like Expo or whatever. Like we were all on that. He was being
Hmm.
recorded by like the Xbox camera at that point, so of course he's not going to say anything. But regardless, none of it. Like I don't want to go off on this tangent because none of this really matters. My point is when I was saying like a franchise that doesn't love you back is oftentimes it just feels like, and like I said, it may not even be an NRS thing. It could be WB. I don't know. It just feels like the decisions they make and the way they go about like communicating those decisions, it's just so much secrecy, so much lack of transparency with these things, and the way they do roster reveals, and the way the game is supported after the fact, and just the unfunness of the grind and all that, and the way they do like their business decisions on that end. It just feels like being an MK fan sometimes can be a huge like struggle, like happiness wise, and that's not a fun thing. Like you don't want to invest as much time as we invest in something like this, talking about it for hours upon hours on the podcast, on the Discord. For 20 plus years we've been like doing this online as part of the MK community, and I'm not saying they owe us anything. I don't want to give the wrong impression. Like they owe us nothing for that. But my point is, it's like if it becomes where you're like so jaded and so negative and you just have so many negative things to say about a franchise to where it just starts making you unhappy. I don't like to live in that. So it's like I hate that aspect of it. And I want this next game to be the thing that turns the fucking corner to where everybody's just happy for once. Like MK11 was supposed to be that. When timelines, like you go back to our initial when it got revealed at the Game Awards, we were all so fucking like we had hope for once in a lot of ways during that discussion from where they could go with the story, from the better looking pictures that looked like it was going to have its color again, and so many like complaints that we had about it. And then when you look at the end product, yeah, they made some steps forward, but they also took some steps back, and it's just like I don't want to do that again. It's just
What?
so draining.
I think everyone has that one moment where they kind of started or decided to kind of step away a bit from MK. And I think for me, it was at the very end of the MKX marketing cycle. And I remember telling you on the Warriors Shrine, like maybe like a week or two before the game came out, MKX that is, that I should be excited for this game. But now that the marketing's over and now that I know everything about it, I'm not excited. I'm just relieved. I feel like I got released from a hostage situation. I feel like I was at a bank robbery and I got negotiated out of the situation. It was just like that. That's when I realized like this might be bad for me. Like this kind of fixation is probably not. And you know what?
Right.
That I took that lesson in MK11. For MK11, I largely stayed like my mental health was fairly stable. I never really sweated over the game. Um, and it's like I even said, like, guys, I'm tired of talking about the roster. This is before the Bald Frost leak, right? I was like,
Yeah,
I'm tired of talking about the roster.
I remember
What
that.
happens, happens, man. Like, I'm just tired of this. So, in a way, it was a good thing, but I think everyone has that moment, you know?
Yeah,
Just
I
I,
kind of that's where I am going into 12. Like I don't really feel any excitement to speculate because in a lot of ways like the Mortal Kombat that we knew is now over for the second time, and we're starting over again. So whatever ties I had, whatever investment I had to see plot lines continue, to see what they do with characters, those are all cut. So either 12 shows me something that gets me interested again, or I'm cool with maybe not even getting the game. You know, maybe I'm just done for a while. But that is the thing, like it does get exhausting covering the news for the current game if you're not enjoying the current game, or you're not enjoying like the feeling of the way the developers are communicating with the fandom, or if you're not sort of on the side of the developers to begin with. There's a lot of like just downer elements that we encountered going through MK11 that got kind of draining and burnt most, if not all of us out. And I've been saying for a while now that I have no intention of like not doing the Nethercast as a channel, but we have the most fun when we're, covering nostalgia elements, when we're talking about old games, when we're doing The Lost, or a movie commentary, or just I like the old stuff because it can't disappoint me. It's already done. It can't go back in time and make itself suck all of a sudden.
That's true. We have options now as well. I mean, this weekend I'm playing the Street Fighter 6 beta. It's a great game. Not to mention Guilty Gear, Tekken 8. There's so many good things out right now. I mean, I think we didn't have that in 2015, or even to the same extent, even in 2019.
There's also, it's weird, but like the old games that weren't necessarily good, there's something about there's like a charm to, say, the cheesiness, the quaint and old-fashioned jank of a mythologies that I can't say about a modern era game that I didn't enjoy so much, like X or 11. Like, I will totally one day you know do an LP of mythologies for the channel. I know, Django has made his attempts, and those have gone unfinished. And maybe one day, I'm sure when I do it, I will invite Django to chime in to talk while I play, because it's always more fun to do this stuff with two or more people. But
Yeah.
I
I just-
actually can't see how Mortal Kombat 12 could like disappoint me or hurt me any more than 11 already did in a lot of ways. I mean, what are you gonna do? Not put smoke in again? Like the third game? Okay, at this point, I'm used to it. What are you gonna do? Just
there's
change entire people's backstories so that they're completely consistent with what came before? Okay, I've seen it happen.
yeah,
What are you gonna
yeah, there's
do? Are
there's
you gonna like
definitely
are you gonna like redesign characters that act nothing the way that they used to? I've seen it happen. Are you
Well,
gonna
for me, it's a
are
little,
you gonna
yeah.
dumb down the gameplay? I've seen it happen. Like I actually don't think MK12 can disappoint me more than 11 did. I think I just hit that baseline, and whatever 12 does, if it's a reboot, so much the better. If it's completely unrecognizable from anything I want to see, I can walk away and I've made my peace. I'm
So
good.
that's not how I feel as a Lee May fan. As a Lee May fan, I feel like I am in grave danger right now. So I gotta. I'm hoping she's not in the game, but we'll see.
you know
I think
what?
it's safer.
I'm so where Shad is, that the bare minimum for me to be like, I like the way this looks and I'll give it a chance, is I need the aesthetic to be MK1-esque. I need it to look like Shaw Brothers. If it looks like, Sonya and Cassie in helmets and carrying guns or whatever, you know, if it's more heavy sci-fi or modern day, like the past couple games have been, I'm gonna be super disinterested. But if we start on, you know, some like ancient Chinese village stuff, I'm gonna be like, okay, good start, good start. I'm following. You know, keep giving me stuff. I'm paying attention now. You have my interest. That's the bare minimum of what I require at this point in time.
I don't need it to be Mortal Kombat 1 told the exact same way. I don't care if like some of the characters are or aren't present or they switch up the roster. You know, assuming this is a reboot or whatnot. You can have Goro win the tournament if you want to do something different. I'm fine with that. If it's a reboot, I hold no comparisons. Everything is fair game. But it still needs to feel like Mortal Kombat. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I should reiterate. I just like, I don't know, man. Like, it's been my 4 years almost basically. Well, let's see, it's 2019, 20, 21, 22. So 20 game came out. So yeah, so about a little over 3 years away, like has been incredible for just recharging everything for me. So like, I'm not going into MK12 with like a disinterest or like a with already like a negative painted opinion. Just to clarify, I'm more just like, I've found my ability. I mean, like I said, there's multiple factors of why I needed time away for my own mental health and issues and struggles outside of any of this bullshit, as you guys know. But just when it comes to this kind of stuff, like, I found myself being more and more jaded and negative and caring way too much about specific things and getting way too like just like into the thick of it, into the weeds of letting like it bum you out about this or going on like rants and whatnot. And it's just like being able to step away for as long as I have has really helped regain like my love and desire for MK. That's why I would say I'm probably the most excited out of all of us, which not really a surprise. You know, that's kind of typically how it was in a lot of ways. With the other games, just my type of personality, more pie in the sky. Though I've become more of a realist, less of an optimist over the years, I think. But I guess to just kind of my point was is like, I just want this game to reignite the love and passion of MK fans of all facets and not feel like it's only trying to cater towards one specific market. And I think a lot of ways that's the competitive Evo scene market in a lot of ways, and then the most casual of casual fan market in terms of like how they operate with their story mode.
That might have been true with X. I don't necessarily feel that was true with 11, but that might be another topic,
Well,
though. But with
they could
X,
have
I think
tried
there
to.
was some of that.
I think they could have
I
tried.
think
I mean, do you think it's fair to say that they tried to cater to the competitive crowd, but
yeah,
they just took missteps?
I think they tried and they just got it wrong.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I'm aiming for. But what do you
I'm
think, Tim?
I'm pretty sure it
No, I
actually
don't.
mentioned something about
Yeah,
competitive gameplay on the back of the actual box. I'm
yeah, but
pretty
I
sure.
we got to get into the semantics here, though, because the thing is, if you're saying that they took in consideration the desires of the FGC and tried to cater to that, then no, I don't think they did that. I think the evidence is in the removal of combo options, the removal of just overall mixes in general,
Mm-hmm.
and just completely taking anti-airs out of the game. They basically destroyed footsies in MK11. So maybe they said that, although what they meant when they said that is an entire other debate. But for MK11, I see nothing in that game that seems to. The one thing I think they did try to attempt to cater to us was debatably presets. But I think that was an excuse because long before the game came out, they said we want customs open, and they said, well, too bad. So I think we were more of a scapegoat. When I say we, the FGC, of course, we were more of a scapegoat when it came to the customs because we gave them the solution. We just said put an interface in the select screen, you're done. They're like, no, we can't do
Right.
that. So No, with MKX, I do see some of that there, though. There was an attempt to cater to the FGC. Now,
Okay.
I would argue that was not successful, but I can see the intent. With 11, I just can't think of an example. I can't think of anything they did that seemed to align at all with the desires of the FGC. I can't think of anything.
Okay, well then, yeah, and maybe that's a discussion for, when we're not trying to wrap up, because I know that's what
Yeah,
we're.
even I gotta head out in a
Yeah,
second
yeah,
here.
yeah.
We've lost Django.
Yeah,
Yeah, he had
so
to
we're
crash
wrapping
out.
up. Don't worry. I mean,
We have been at this
we'll
for
have
3.5
discussions.
hours.
We'll have more discussions as we go, as the months go on. But then maybe I guess my point is they've lost their way some form or fashion, be it trying to cater to this group, that group, or just failing at whatever their initiative is, or just being maybe they're just such a hodgepodge that they like. I guess I mean really they've lost their identity. I mean we kind of nailed it with that, but like ultimately I just want them to cater to everybody and really like hit this home run because I just want the community to be happy and positive, and for them to do that they really need to give them a reason to. I'm not asking anybody on our Discord, on the community as a whole, or anything to just be positive, guys, because I know you don't like what we're getting. Like, no, because I have my fair share of gripes too. What I want is them to actually like make a stellar game experience. I mean, the fans have told you what we want from a story perspective, from character perspective, roster perspective, gameplay perspective. The it's all there. Like all the data is there of what people what the problems are. And like you said, every game is to try and right the wrongs of the previous and kind of take it another direction and make another shot at it. And I'm just really hoping that we see the next the next MK9 in a sense, or like the next big game that everybody agrees was awesome. So that's what I'm really hoping for. That's kind of all I was trying to drive at. Is I want a new bright light. I want a new light, shining light that we can all look to and feel comfortable as we tuck ourselves into bed at night.
I'll say I'm in a good place right now. Because no matter what happens, no matter how good or bad MK12 is, they can't take Street Fighter 6 away from me. So I have so much to look forward to no matter what happens.
I'm in a great place right now. No matter what happens with MK12 in the future, I got Silent Hill back, bitches! Fucking yeah!
But yeah, we'll have more discussions on stuff and more desires and hopes and maybe some wish lists and character talk and all that fun stuff as we go along and on our next episode, whenever the hell that is. So thanks everybody for tuning in. And once again, check out the GoFundMe. And take care, everybody.
Yeah. See you later, nerds.
Thank you very kindly for tuning in and listening to us.
Take care, everyone.